There we go. There we go. So, we are live, and currently we are joined with Toady. Toady, are you there?
I am here. Yes.
Cool.
Oh, it's
Good,
all right.
good stuff. Good stuff. We're just waiting on Sleepy Worry. It's only going to be 5 minutes, and then we can get stuck into this. But you were just telling me about your P900 that you bought.
We were having a laugh about it, weren't we? Yes. Saying that
Yeah,
it would turn me. It would turn me.
it
Yeah,
will
like
turn you.
the like MI5 do with the Russians, or KGB do. It'll turn me. Yeah, I think I think I was very interested in some of the stuff around actually the Nicker beam stuff that I read about this Battle of the Beams. So yeah, I thought it would be nice to get one and have a look. Plus, I saw some pictures that I think Jose did of the moon the other day, and they were absolutely fantastic. And like everyone, I've been interested in the moon for a long time. So I thought it would be nice. I've got tripods and stuff, so I've already got quite a lot of cameras that I've acquired and stuff over the years. Quite good SLR. But obviously this is the reasonable priced camera of choice, I guess, for these kind of long distance observations, even though I know it's not the world's best camera. It looks quite easy to use as well, actually, to be fair to it. I found it pretty intuitive. Certainly a bit easier than my Canon. So yeah, I'm quite excited about get a few observations and see what we're seeing.
Me too, and I can't wait for you actually to show this stuff as well. So, as I say, this time next year, if you can go down to the beach, you'll be a flat earther, all right. When somebody says to you what you're looking at in the distance, those buildings that you're looking at over there, and or that boat or whatever, and it's a mirage, it's not there, it's looming up. I mean, you're just going to be going utter garbage. I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes, and then I zoomed in on the camera. It wasn't being miraged. It was definitely there. Trust me. Right, we're joined by Sleeping Warrior. Sleeping Warrior, are you there?
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's what I like to hear. So, are you two guys prepared for this?
So I prepped a sort of run-in to bring the audience up to speed, which we can read through, and of course Anthony can say if there's anything particularly wrong that I misrepresented there. Plus I've got a nice little diagram of what we were talking about, because this is a follow-up to a session that we had on, I think it was Jose's, was it, Anthony?
Oh, yeah, Jose kind of messed it up because he opened the floodgates and allowed everyone to come in, and then we never finished the point because it ended up getting obfuscated to death. And it was a shame, really, because we were getting to the point where, well, you were just about to die a slow and painful death, but you were spared.
Yeah. I think I was just about to upset you a lot, and you were going to go off crying somewhere in a corner, but you managed to slip away.
Let's make the claim again. We're going to go. I don't know whether you've still got the submarine picture. And if you've not,
I've got. As I say, do you want me to share what I've got?
Make your point again and challenge me the way you did the other day, and then let me respond.
And then we'll bring the audience up to speed. Right, we've got a little bit of time. I'm sort of okay. Right, how do I start sharing? If I click that one, if you guys tell me when you see the screen. You probably don't want all of that up or Dr. Self. Right, here we go. Can you see?
Yeah.
Let's just move this one over. There we go. Okay. So shall I read this out and then we'll go through it slowly, yeah, because there was a little bit to unpack. And then, by the way, I've got, just so you can see, see, I've got a nice picture of the subs, okay? And I've actually put subs in.
Out of interest, what made you go with 33 feet?
Because it's one atmosphere.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so it goes to 2 atmospheres. So we'll go through slowly and then we'll agree, hopefully won't change your claims, and then we'll see where we get to.
Okay, so sure. So before we go any further, just so we're quite clear, what's this actual debate upon?
I think this debate is about what causes pressure underwater, and I believe there is a claim by Anthony that it is due to mass, whereas we would say that it is due to the weight of water acting under gravity. And I don't want to spoil the next logical step. If it is due to mass, there are some ways of testing that. Yeah, okay. And it relates back to Anthony's relative density. I don't know if Anthony, because I don't want to say I don't want to say the big topic because we'll get to it quite quickly.
And what's your claim there, Tony?
Well, it depends on how he represents his position. Now I want to make sure. Let him make his representation about what is, because he made a challenge to me to explain something, And I started to explain it, and it just got lost because the door got opened and everybody came in, and then it never got concluded. So let him just make his presentation, and then I'll respond to it when he
Yeah,
makes his
and you can
presentation.
say if my diagram's wrong or not. You know, I'm pretty fair on this stuff, and I agree with you. It just too many people piled in, and it got silly. Yeah, and we didn't have very good drawings either, which probably didn't help. So I'll go through this stuff quite quickly. I'll go at pace, yeah, as we say in the trade. So this was a discussion 15th of September on Hoses After Show. So the air at sea level, just above the sea, is at approximately 14.7 psi or 1 atmosphere. I don't think anyone's arguing over that at the moment. Okay, maybe the cause, but we're not arguing over the fact that you can measure 14.7 psi or 1 atmosphere. If we dive down and measure the pressure at 33 feet, and the reason I've chosen 33 feet is it exactly goes to 2 atmospheres. Yeah, because 33 feet is the height if you used water in a Torricelli barometer. All right. So at 33 feet, we see 28 psi or 2 atmospheres. So a number of questions present themselves relating to the relative density disequilibrium model. Afterwards, I will refer to this as RIDEM because it's just shorthand. Okay. And maybe I've misnamed it. If you want to use a different name, fine. But for the purpose of this document, I'll call it RIDEM, which is, and we're not going to answer all of these today, but these were the things that came up on the show. Yep. What is causing the increase in pressure from 1 atmosphere at the surface to 2 atmosphere at 33 feet, which is something we are going to go into. The second bit is what's containing the water that's under pressure at 33 feet. If you've got water at pressure at 33 feet, i.e. 2 atmospheres, why doesn't that move to the lower pressure area, for example, that's at the top of the water or the sea or the ocean that you're in? Third one is water at 2 atmospheres should move towards lower density, i.e. the surface. And then it would sort of should spurt out onto the surface and you'd see spurts all over the sea, which we don't see. And then why does this water at 2 atmospheres not constantly push upwards to equalize, which is sort of related to the 2 previous ones? And then why is the water that's in equilibrium maintaining this pressure difference at 33 feet and then increasingly deeper? Yeah, because it's obviously in equilibrium because it isn't moving and it's not spurting around anywhere. But we're going to cover A today because that's sort of as far as we've got in the debate. So these are quite complex. I referred to RIDEM, so I'll move to the next bit, this paragraph here. We focused in on the water, which was at a pressure of 2 atmospheres and not at 1 atmosphere at 33 foot depth. We also discussed why we didn't see any changes in the sea, which seems to be in equilibrium, the water spout's point. Anthony then first tried to explain this due to density of the water. He said density was mass over volume, and he said that the volume of water above the 33 foot area, i.e. if you imagine a chunk of water that's 33 foot below the sea, so imagine you've got the sea, you dive down to 33 feet, and the water that's at that depth is at 2 atmospheres. Okay. Anthony's claim was that is due to the first claim he made was due to the volume of water above it. It was then pointed out that the volume is not changing here. And so the amount of water that is above it is constant, i.e. there isn't a separate amount of water relating to the volume that's above it. So then Anthony moved away from the density argument, and then he decided to explain the pressure using the other variable. Now, at first, he called it weight, and then he very quickly corrected himself to be fine. He's very sharp. He knows that weight implies, certainly to us, something that involves
I did qualify that by saying I was using weight in the colloquial sense, not in the little g sense.
Correct. And that's what I've said here, Anthony. By the way, I'm being absolutely fair to you. You did absolutely qualify that. Yep. So then you said mass. Now, of course, we would say that the mass is under acceleration due to little g, but you said just the sheer mass of the water. So then you made a statement, and I wrote it down in my notebook, which is the submarine 2, and you'll see where submarine 2 is in a sec, but basically it's a submarine. It dives to 33 foot under the sea, and it will experience 2 atmospheres of pressure due to the mass of all the water that is above it. And I pointed out in the debate, and I've gone back and listened to it, that is actually very, very similar to our statement. Now, our statement would be this one here. A submarine diving to 33 foot under the sea will experience 2 atmospheres of pressure due to the weight of the water above causing the pressure. And of course, the weight is a function of the mass and the water accelerating under gravity. Okay, so there's a slight difference there. One is the 2 atmospheres is due just to the mass of the water that's above it. And R1 is that it's due to the weight of the water above it, which obviously does include the mass. Yeah, okay, but obviously one's got gravity, one hasn't. So then the logical question we responded with is, if mass is the cause of the pressure at 33 foot down, we should therefore logically see exactly the same two atmospheres, the same pressure, if we go laterally, i.e. sideways. So instead of diving down and seeing at 33 foot 2 atmospheres of pressure, we should be able to move 33 feet sideways, because it's the same, as long as we've got a channel that's got the same mass. Yeah, if it is due to mass, you should see 2 atmospheres going sideways. And that is where we get onto this picture, Anthony, okay, which shows what pretty much it's slight improvement over what Zinda drew. Here is the submarine number 1, which is 33 foot down, 2 atmospheres of pressure at 33 depth from the origin, which I'm calling 00, so we're all clear on this origin. And then if you went in a sideways channel over here, the mass of the water in this is the same as the mass of the water here, so there's no difference in the mass. But of course, this one is only just under the surface, as you can see. And of course, we don't see this one under 2 atmospheres of pressure. So my question is, why does the green submarine not experience the 2 atmospheres of pressure? And then we got to Anthony saying that he could show that it did. Was that a fair assessment?
Yeah, but if just scroll back up.
Sure.
So you said that the only bit I disagree with here is that you said Anthony quickly skipped onwards and decided then to explain that the pressure using the other variable we have. At first he called this reason weight, and quickly he more carefully redefined it as being the mass. This is because Anthony is sharp and knows that weight is in fact a force. I know that weight is claimed to be a force, but obviously weight is mass times little g. We know that little g isn't a force. I avoided that word, not because I know that weight is a force. I avoided that word because weight is not a force, but is claimed to be a force.
All right, fair enough. So we didn't want to get muddled up arguing the semantics of the words weight or mass. So the point is that you said it's due to the mass. I mean, you know, our argument is very clear. We say that the mass is under acceleration due to little g. Yeah, which is the difference between these two statements.
Even though that we both agree that there's ample evidence that little g cannot be a force, even though you're treating it as a force now. Well,
as you know, I'm a 1920s Newtonian. Yeah, I'm not up that much on your Einsteinian. I don't follow the equations, but I can certainly follow the maths here, and I've got the maths later on if we need it.
No,
I'm very happy to look at it.
But just for the benefit of the audience, you are actually arguing the same position as Sean Little G argues, in that because he doesn't understand the Einsteinian maths, he doesn't apply it, and we say, well, you can't ignore it because that is your current citation for gravity.
Well, I can ignore it. I mean, you guys ignore all sorts of things and say all sorts of things, so I can say that. I'm just making the point that I don't understand the Einsteinian maths, and I don't think I need it here to show what's going on. Yeah,
you do, because you're arguing antiquated science that no longer is current science.
We don't have that debate today because I'm looking for my answer as to if I come up with a situation, all right, where I can explain the 2 atmospheres here, and I can explain why we haven't got 2 atmospheres here, right? Because we're not going in the downwards direction towards the gravity well or whatever, center of the Earth, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So I'd like to see your proof for the fact that we get 2 atmospheres over here when we're just below the surface.
All right.
By the way, shall I give you very quickly, because you may just at this point retreat and give in. You might not. I'll give you kudos. I've given you 7 examples of why you should just give in. All right? Here. So I say if your effect is real and if going sideways causes pressure rather than going downwards, swimmers who are under the surface would be under serious pressure any time they swim in the sea in any direction. Pipes in our house would explode due to the massive pressure, because remember, we're not saying it's to do necessarily with the volume, it's to do with the mass sideways. Certainly, I've got some pipes that have a run of probably about 33 foot in my house. Hose pipes, which I water the garden with.
Can I just interrupt there for just a second? Tony, you started screen sharing, which has knocked Toady off. Toady, are you still presenting?
I'm still talking through something.
Okay, but, Tony, if you could knock your screen share off for a second, then you might have to re-screen share there, Toady.
How do I do that?
Am I screen sharing?
Yeah, you've clicked screen share, so you've got a black screen right now.
Hang on. Okay, just hang on. I'll need to refine the thingamajiggle. Here we are, share screen, don't I? I'm nearly done, by the way. I'm just giving you some killer arguments, and then we'll see where you go.
No worries. There we go.
So here we go.
Perfect.
So back to this. So if what Anthony says is correct, and that going sideways, okay, I'll go for them quickly. Swimmers would swim 33 foot, and they'd be under 2 atmospheres of pressure and have heart attacks. Secondly, pipes would explode. Third, hose pipes wouldn't work and would explode. any stream or lake that was longer than 33 foot would get a huge build-up. It would have atmospheres of pressure building up in it. Water parks would kill people because a lot of the slides I've gone in water parks are more than 33 foot, and they have water in them. Yep, in a funnel. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, in like a pipe. Submarines wouldn't function. They would dive to 33 foot. They'd be under 2 atmospheres. The minute a submarine tried to go in any direction, as soon as it got 33 foot sideways in any other direction, it would be under 3 atmospheres and then 4 atmospheres of pressure. So submarines couldn't function. Divers would die, clearly, because they're diving sideways. They'd be under all this additional pressure. So there's a number of ways I think we can debunk the fact that lateral movement does not cause a build-up of additional pressure, which then I think disproves it. But over to you. I'll stop sharing now, shall I? And I'll let you have a bit of a gander. So, it's that one. There we go.
Okay.
Bit of dead area. Dead.
I'm here. I was waiting. I think Anthony's looking for something, is he?
Yeah.
Was he thinking about his position?
Sorry. Skype unexpectedly quit.
Oh, okay.
Stupid machine. Right. So, do you see my paint screen?
No.
I do.
Yeah, of course we do.
All right. So basically, what we got to in Jose's chat was we managed to get this far and then it got wrecked. And basically, we're going to go with a 1 centimeter pipe, 1 centimeter diameter pipe. Okay. Scale's important here. And I remember that there was an issue with it being open top. So let's just make this open top so that there it is.
Scale's important, but I mean, obviously, you say that the submarine would experience that due to the mass. I mean, it's the same mass sideways, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scale's important for making my point here. Right, so this is basically
I'll let you
where we
explain
got.
it, yeah, because you never got that far. So I'll shut up. I'm going to go on mute. Right. Have your say.
Well, no, don't go on mute. Just answer my question so that we were on the same way. So look, we're at the same point all the way through. Right. So you said to me, if it's 33 feet vertically, then there is pressure, right? And you said, why is it not laterally when we get 33 feet worth of pressure? The same distance laterally, right? Yep. And I said, well, it is.
Same mass. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, this is the point where we got to. And what I want to ask you to confirm before I go any further, let's just put that thing back there. Oh, it should have been black. Do you agree that if we had a pipe that was like this, it was 1 centimeter in diameter, 33 feet long, do you agree that if we had, there was an issue with the height of the water, but imagine that the water's just above, a little tiny midgie's dick above it, right?
1 mil or something above.
Yeah. Do you agree that there would be pressure on the corner caused by the weight of the water in the tube? Presumably your answer's got to be no.
So would there be pressure on the corner caused? Well, a minuscule amount, obviously, from the 1 1 mm of water that's there. Because I'm presuming that's not high. On your scale there, that's 1 centimetre. So therefore, actually, that water looks about 1 centimetre high. But let's assume it's even less. Yeah, it's just.
Well, so long as the tube's filled with water, because obviously we all know that to have pressure, you need a container, right?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think you could have that open. You could just be a trough. I don't know why you don't just go with a trough myself. Right.
Well, the point I'm trying to get to is, so long as
it doesn't need to be a pipe, does it? It could just be a trough. Why couldn't it just be a trough?
Well,
the sea's open.
Well, you said that you wanted 33 feet laterally, so I'm like,
we'll be there. So get rid of your other bit, and you can just have a trough. It could just be a long trough, couldn't it?
Yeah, but it can't have air in it. It needs to be filled because you need the pressure pushing against all walls of the container. That's where the pressure comes from, right?
We don't have that with the sea, do we? The sea's open. You know my diagram. The sea was open at the top, wasn't it?
But you're
all right. Yeah. Fair enough. I'll give you this. It doesn't matter anything because I don't think it'll change it. But that's fine. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that if, hang on, let's go back to this.
Just draw it tiny little bit up on each side. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
A little smidgen. Yeah, and then I'll say it's fine because I don't think it's going to make any difference. I know Druss was seeing, ambushes everywhere. I don't think it's going to make a jot of difference.
All right. So I'm just trying to put a little.
Yeah, great. If you want it like this, you can have it like this. It's your gig.
There you go. The reason why it has to be covered, right, is to create the pressure inside. Because if you've got air gaps in there, then it's just not going to be a complete tube. But you said that the sea
That
is
doesn't
not like
happen in the sea, does it? The sea is open at the top, I would point out. The
Yeah, but
example
you're
of a
asking
submarine
for
that dives down and goes laterally. But
yeah, but you're asking for a lateral pressure, right?
yes,
And
I am. And I'm saying it doesn't exist in the sea in the example we just did with the submarine. But anyway, carry on. You can enclose it. That's fine. I
yeah, but
still don't think
how would I demonstrate a lateral pressure if I didn't have the containment of the container to be able to demonstrate the pressure?
Well, you'd put a pressure meter in like divers use, and it would measure the pressure at the water at that point.
But if there's no vertical aspect to it, because it's only a centimeter tall, there isn't going to be any pressure, is there? Not pressure is in. It has to be contained. It's like you can't have gas pressure without a container. You can't have water pressure laterally without the container. You have to have the container.
Well, there isn't any water pressure laterally, Anthony. But it's fine if you want to put it in a tube. I'm fine.
Well,
I'm all right with that.
This
I
isn't.
think
This
you'll
is the
then
question.
debug yourself. But that's fine. Put it in a tube. Put it in a tube. It's fine. Fine.
This
For now,
you
put it
just
in a
said
tube.
then that there isn't any pressure without the tube. So, do
No,
you agree?
I'm saying there is no pressure. In my diagram, you insisted that the submarine going laterally would experience 2 atmospheres of pressure, the same as it does when it goes down, because
Dude.
I constructed something with the same amount. But carry on this one, because you won't get it here either, Anthony. Yeah, unless you start putting pumps or something.
These walls here, these areas here. Do you agree, yes or no, that there is pressure pushing against that wall
Do I agree?
from the inside, pushing out?
There is a small weight of water pushing against that.
Okay, and
Not
where's the
2
weight?
atmospheres. Yep.
And where's the weight coming from?
The weight is coming from the weight of the water, 1 centimetre high of water that's pushing against that wall, pushing that wall outwards.
So you don't think that the weight of the water is coming from this bit? Yeah, let's just change this to white. You don't think the weight of the water is pushing that way and that way by virtue of its own mass?
No, it equalises across that tube, which is why otherwise, if there was pressure there, it would be spurting out of the top, Anthony.
No. Just bear with me. So if your position is true, then let's remove this 33 feet and let's just exaggerate it and let's call it a mile just to make the point.
Well, we'll start to get into drag in the middle, right? It'll start to sag. Yeah, a mile-long pipe is very, very difficult to keep absolutely straight.
Yeah, but let's not go with the sag argument. For fuck's sake, let's not go with the sag argument. Let's go with
33 foot. You said is 2 atmospheres, so you should be able to show it on a tube that's 33 foot long, Anthony, shouldn't you?
I'm going to do.
Okay, so let's not make it a mile. Let's make it 33 feet.
No, I want to know, do you think that there would be an increase, no increase, or a decrease in pressure if we change the length of the pipe to a mile?
No, the pressure would equalise all the way along the length of the pipe.
So therefore, it wouldn't increase at all, according to you,
because it's not going upwards. It's not going upwards. It's not going vertically.
Excellent. So, in the real world, when we construct these pipes, do you agree that there would be a vertical pipe at one end, there would be another vertical pipe at the other, there would be a pipe that goes in the middle, and then there would be the elbow. I'm going to call it the elbow, the 90-degree elbow that connects the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Because that's what gives us the joint.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looks a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And the same would be for the same on this side here. You'd have the elbow. Right. They're a weak point, aren't they? Because they're a joint.
Of course, because they're bent. Yep.
Yeah. So if your claim is that over 1 mile, the pressure would be the same.
That isn't my claim. Your claim was that at 33 foot, you get 2 atmospheres in the sea when you go laterally due to the mass. Now, you constructed a very different argument here, and I'm not an expert on 1 mile long pipes, Anthony. But at 33 foot, I've certainly got pipes that are 33 foot long, and they're not cracking or bursting, or water isn't shooting out them, and they're not under 2 atmospheres of pressure.
But this is why I asked you to address what is your position. If you're saying that the pressure doesn't increase as a function of distance, it wouldn't matter whether this is a mile or 100 miles. You would say that the pressure is the same because it equally disperses and it wouldn't be bursting out the top, correct?
Open, by the way, as well, remember. Mine is open, Anthony. Open.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
So I want you to confirm again, because you've only done it once, and I want you to double down on it so that we don't get any disagreement.
But you're trying to wriggle out of it, because what you're doing
I'm not. I'm not.
Well, let's just go
through. I'm not. You're the one. No,
let's just
listen. 33 feet is what you're asking me to demonstrate, right?
Correct.
And I've asked you.
Open, by the way,
Yeah,
in the open sea.
Open.
Yeah, in the open sea.
Yeah, you can't have pressure without containment. Stop deflecting and address the point.
So you've ended the argument.
Toady, shut up. You want me to address the 33 feet, right? But I want you to commit to this bit.
I'm not committing to any of it, Anthony. We had the diagram the other day. You told me, quite reasonably, that at 33 feet laterally, the submarine would be under 2 atmospheres of pressure because it's due to the mass, whether it goes down or whether it goes sideways. Now, that's open. Now, you're constructing other things with pipes and tubes and other things, to try to make your point, but you still haven't shown to me that when it goes laterally at 33 feet, it's under 2 atmospheres.
I'm about to.
You a list of 10 reasons why it won't. And it doesn't need containment. It's in the sea. It's open. Does it when you go down? You get pressure at 2 atmospheres. And I believe it never does it when you go sideways. And I've given you 10 good reasons why it doesn't happen when you go sideways.
Right, stop fucking monologuing me and shut up.
Okay.
The point that you want
I'll go on silent. I'll listen.
No, I want you to confirm this position. You want me to address the 33 feet. But to do that, I need you to double down on what you've just said, that it wouldn't make any difference if it was a mile or 50 miles. The pressure would evenly distribute across the whole width because there's no lateral pressure. Can you confirm that that is your position?
I'm waiting for you to show it at 33 feet.
I want you to confirm it before I do.
No, I'm waiting for you to show it at 33 feet. I'm not an expert on mile-long pipes, as I've said.
I'm about to debunk it, and I want you to confirm.
This is an enclosed pipe, Anthony. This is an enclosed pipe.
Okay,
yep.
Can we draw a little bit of, just bring it back a bit here, right? And just try and be a little more open about the subject rather than be so defensive about all the questions and stuff. You can agree to disagree, but in order to move this along a bit, there has to be a little bit of give and take. If you're just waiting for gotchas and stuff like that, that isn't the way that we're going to win these arguments. We're all here for the truth. So if you can just answer it as honestly as you would think, that's all we're asking. For both of you.
Toady wants me to demonstrate pressure without a container. That's like having an atmosphere with it next to a vacuum with no membrane. You can't do it. That's our point with gas pressure. I have to demonstrate it in a container to prove that there's pressure there. Now, if you can't move beyond that point, then there's no conversation. But I will then spit back to you. You can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. End of discussion. Explain that on your model.
Let me reshare. And I'll show you the model that you agreed on Jose's Hangout.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm applying that. You don't seem to understand that I'm applying it.
Well, okay, so let's just look at this, and then we can apply it to all your pipes you're coming up with, yep? You don't need a container to see this pressure. The pressure down here in the water is 2 atmospheres.
Yeah,
2 atmospheres. There's no container. There's a wall here.
Right, what's holding the sea?
Here.
Listen, what's holding the sea or the ocean in situ?
So this side here, this bottom here, this side here. This is all like I don't know, rock.
So you've got a container then, haven't you?
There's no top to the container, which is what we asked you the other day. It's actually one of my questions. Do you remember?
Yeah, and mine's not got a top. Mine's not got a top.
Well, yours has. Yours is enclosed at the top, right? This is open.
No, it's not. Mine's open on both sides. Hang
on. Let's just check what we agreed the other day, and then you can carry on with your bit, right? We need to calm down here a bit, because I know you're struggling, right?
You're wriggling out of it.
I'm not wriggling out of anything.
Yes, you are.
This at length. No, I'm not wriggling.
Yes, you are. You're being dishonest right now. You're trying to change the goalposts.
Explain
one at a time.
Explain what I'm changing. Explain what I'm changing. I'm going to listen. You explain what I'm changing, Anthony.
Right. So with your picture on screen, you've got a container. Your water is being contained by whatever it is, and that's giving you the vertical pressure that you want me to represent, but laterally. I can do that.
Can I respond?
But I need the container, and you're saying that it's not open. On it needs to be open. It is open. My container is open.
Can I respond?
But go on then.
All right. So we agreed on this diagram because it was drawn and you agreed to it. Okay. It is absolutely open at the top, right? The whole point is it's open because it's the sea. All right. Yeah. And it's the sea going laterally and it's the sea going down. And we did ask you what it's contained by. Now, of course, it's contained by the water above it. But anyway, I don't want to give you your answer because you'd believe something differently. Now, you said that this pressure down here, it was 33 foot. Yeah. and it's due to the mass. So all this mass of water in this blue block that I'm indicating here, you're saying presses on here, just the mass of it, okay? So then I said, well, if you go sideways, yeah, you've got the same amount of mass, this big blue block here, and it should press here, and we should get 2 atmospheres here, which you said it did, and you said you could show that. Yeah. Now your picture looks different to this because you're putting something closed and you're making it a mile long. Now it only needs to be 33 foot long. Doesn't need to be a mile long.
Right.
But I'll happily now listen to your explanation in full. I'm not doubling down or confirming anything. I'm confirming what we started with, what the original debate was about. I think you're changing a few things, but I'm very willing to listen to your explanation. I'll listen to your explanation. Then I'll stop sharing, carry on with your explanation, and I will listen to it. Has that stopped sharing, or have I not?
Do you see them? Do you see my screen?
I do, yeah.
Right. The tube is 33 feet long. I asked you, would it change the pressure if it went to a mile or 10 or 50? It doesn't matter. Some other arbitrary figure that is bigger than the 33 feet. And you said it wouldn't. You said it would evenly disperse across it. I wanted to confirm that that is your position.
Right. So my real position is this. It's an enclosed pipe, so it's different to the scenario that we've looked at. Point number 1. Point number 2, I don't know about tubes a mile long. Yeah, they may have certain breaking strains and all sorts of things. So in this case, I won't be able to give an answer, but I could say that I suspect, so my best guess is if you went up to 40 or 50 foot, there would not be a significant increase in pressure on the side of this tube because it's not enclosed, it's open, and the water should theoretically disperse quite evenly. But I'm not an expert on pipes with bends in it, which definitely is not the same as the scenario that we started the discussion about, where you claimed that we would see it at 33 foot sideways laterally. But that is my answer. That's my honest answer. Or what Ranty wants. So I carry on, and you explain how a pressure is being created in an open pipe, because I would be expecting to see the water jetting out of this pipe, this tube.
Okay, I agree with you. If it was 40 feet, it's not going to make much difference. There would be a negligible increase in pressure. But that's why I've put a mile, so that we can scale this and we can say there absolutely would be, or nah, there would be even. And you said before that it would be even, it wouldn't really change.
I'm still waiting for 33 feet, Anthony, in this pipe at 2 atmospheres.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm that it wouldn't do that
at
a mile.
I've said I'm not. I don't know. You make your explanation and then I'll consider the information you've given me.
So
because
the reason...
This isn't my scenario.
So you've asked me to demonstrate or to explain, but I can not only explain, but I can demonstrate, which proves that I'm right. But anyway, is there going to be...
just ask a quick question, which is really important here. Which end are you starting from? So when you go 33 feet, which direction are you starting from, and which direction is the 2 atmospheres in?
It doesn't matter. It can be either direction. It's lateral.
So which one are you starting from and going in, so I know where I'm going to see the 2 atmospheres? At the 33, so we've got 33.
We can start in the middle and we can push out in both directions evenly. Is that okay?
Well, no, because you said earlier in our example that we looked at with the submarine, if you go 33 feet laterally and it's got the same mass as when you go 33 feet diving down, you will get 2 atmospheres. Yeah. Okay. So we should be able to see that on this pipe, and I want to know where we're starting from.
You can start from anywhere. We're demonstrating lateral pressure.
Okay, Tony, make it a 66 foot long pipe and then stick him in the middle.
No, I'm going to make it a mile.
33 feet each way.
We're going to go with a mile, because a mile is much bigger than 33 feet. Now, his position is that it's not going to really change. My position is it is going to change, because the weight of the water is going to be pushing laterally against the walls of the container. And I can demonstrate this to prove that Toady is wrong.
And I'm waiting for the 33 foot and the 2 atmospheres, Anthony, and I want to know which direction it goes in as well. It's very important to me. You might not think it is, because I've got hose pipes that I went out yesterday and strung out a hose pipe 33 foot long and I filled it with water, and nothing shot out of it at 2 atmospheres. So I tested it in reality. Yeah, that's what I did yesterday evening.
Why would you expect it to shoot out?
Because the water is under pressure of 2 atmospheres, which it wasn't.
Yeah, but you asked me to demonstrate lateral pressure, which would be the pressure being exerted on all the walls of its container.
On that submarine. On the submarine. Yeah? That submarine, you said, would be under 2 atmospheres in our discussion, which we had in the picture that I've just shown and shared again. The submarine was under 2 atmospheres. You said the same, because it's due to the mass.
So you want the submarine to exist in the pipe?
Well, if you could fit a tiny submarine in a pipe, yeah, I expect it to be under 2 atmospheres of pressure. And that's why I'm asking which end you're starting from. Because then I want to know which direction you're going in so that we know we've gone 33 foot and then we've got 2 atmospheres there.
Okay, so I
Because
understand.
if I put this just quickly for the audience, yeah, because I know that you're wrong, but if we put this vertically, okay, it would be under 1 atmosphere at the base. So if I took this pipe, this tube of yours with 33 foot of water in it, even if it was a centimetre wide, and I put it upright, i.e. in the vector of the gravity well, yeah, towards the ground, instead of this looks like it's lateral at the moment, I'm assuming the ground is below.
Gravity wells don't have vectors. They're not real. They're not real things. They're arbitrary things that are conceptual.
Upright, if I put this upright, it would be under 1 atmosphere.
Okay, so when I go back to this bit here, when in the real world we have these joints on the corners, these joints are a weak point because they seep or bleed, right? If there was no pressure in here, whether it be at 33 feet or a mile, these wouldn't leak. Would you agree?
Well, in pressurized pipes, so the plumbing in my house is pressurized right by a header tank, yeah, that's probably 30 foot above ground level in my house. It's not in an open pipe, which is why I went and tested it with a hose pipe yesterday.
Okay, so can you answer my question directly? Do you
Which
agree
is what?
that these corner points are a weak point?
They're
and
a
if
weak
there was
point.
if there was no pressure in them, they would weep. Do you agree?
If there was no pressure in them, they would weep. No, I don't think so. I think if they're pressurized, they might weep.
Sorry, I said it the wrong way around. Misspeak. Let me re-ask it. If there was pressure in them, they would weep. If there was no pressure in them, they would not weep. Would you agree?
Well, they might weep anyway because they might be a badly soldered joint. I mean, hang on. I just want to point out for the audience's sake, because I can see where you're going with this. You are now focusing down on joints in pipes, which are all part of this theoretical thing. You're not focusing on the theory that the same mass of water creates 2 atmospheres, which we agreed in the sea example. Yep. You're now focusing on things with pipes.
No.
But I'm waiting to see where you go to with it.
You asked me to demonstrate lateral pressure. I'm demonstrating it.
Of 2 atmosphere at 33 foot.
I don't know whether it'd be 2 atmospheres. It might be relative, but there would be. This is why I'm focusing on this.
It can't be relative, can it, Anthony? It has to be the same because we've got 2 atmospheres when we dive down 33 foot, and you've got the same mass of water.
Well, so you claim.
All right,
but that's still an arbitrary measurement.
No, it's not arbitrary. So let's just recap. You said that the mass of water was the reason for the pressure. That was the whole point. Yeah,
I did say that, didn't I?
Then you went on the mass. Okay,
I did. I did say that, didn't I?
You did, and I've come up with the situation. I don't know why you're speaking like that. You're getting triggered. Just calm down.
I'm excited.
Okay, brilliant. So, if it was mass, and we see 2 atmospheres at 33 foot, which we absolutely do, it's confirmed by lots of divers. I'm sure we could easily get that confirmed. If you then swam just under the surface of the water, which is exactly what I said about 5 times the other day, in 33 foot along, you would be going through the same mass of water. You should also see 2 atmospheres there.
Right.
Which is why I'm expecting to see 2 atmospheres in your 33 foot long pipe.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Great. Here is a bloke. Here is a bloke by the name of Sly Sparkane who demonstrated over a length of a pipe of a mile that when he filled it with water, the weight of the water when pushing down against the lateral length of the pipe, it bled on the joints. And when you said there wouldn't be any lateral pressure, why did his experiment fail? Because they were bleeding on the joints if it wasn't because of the mass of the water laterally creating pressure in the pipes.
Well, do you want to show the video and show the audience how high the water is in each of the pipes? Because I've not seen the video, by the way.
Not really, because I don't want him to, because there's a big copyright fight going on.
All right, so can you show how much water is in each of these pipes? Because I believe that when Sly was doing it, and by the way, I didn't follow it at all, so I've only third hand. But look, that's not a dribble of water in an open pipe, is it, Anthony?
No, I'm not demonstrating. All you asked me to demonstrate was lateral pressure.
That's hydraulic pressure from Pascal's law, which you know about.
No, but that's lateral pressure caused by the mass of the water in the pipes over a mile distance, and it seeped at the joints, proving that there was pressure laterally in the pipes, which you don't think exists.
Anthony, you're being foolish because what is there is you've got at least 0.5 meter of water there over a mile, not 33 foot. It's not showing 2 atmospheres, much less than that, because you've just got a little bit of leakage, and that is not open. It's also, you're going to get the force of the water because you've got 0.5 meter of water, which is a height. Gravity working on that is going to cause a hydraulic pressure in the pipes, which I'm pretty sure would make some tubes leak, especially if you just snap them together. Very, very different, Anthony, to a submarine moving just under the surface of the water.
How is it possible?
Factors.
How is it possible that his joints were seeping if there isn't lateral pressure in the pipes? Because he's only got it going up by, 0.5 foot or whatever, but it's open at the top and it isn't spurted out, but it's leaking at the corners. Can you explain that without using gravity as a force? Because we know it isn't a force, but even if you want to think of it as a force, it still demonstrates lateral pressure in the pipes.
So
Otherwise,
you're not showing the 2 atmospheres, Anthony.
Maybe not. I don't know whether I can demonstrate 2 atmospheres, but what I can demonstrate, which was the challenge, to demonstrate lateral pressure caused by mass in the pipe.
No. So let's go back. The challenge was at 33 foot to show us the 2 atmospheres, because your claim was, which I think I would like a concession on now, that it was due to the mass. Now, what you've done is you've shown
a picture. What the fuck are you talking about? A concession?
A concession.
Be very clear with your words. What concession do you want me to make?
Concession that it's not due to the mass, because you cannot show 2 atmospheres.
You are the most dishonest prick I've ever met. What the fuck is causing the pipes to seep? Why are they bleeding on the corners?
It's just explained. You've got 0.5 meter of water, 0.5 meter of water in height. Yep. Remember, with your little pipes that you're drawing here, you've got hydraulic pressure in the system. The system in the ocean is open. Shall I reshare my picture so we look at what we agreed? We didn't say sealed pipes.
You are being dishonest. He has a few. He has a few centimeters.
I know you don't like losing. I know you don't like losing. There's not a few centimeters. There's hydraulic pressure.
You're being dishonest. He's got bugger all above it. That is not creating the pressure. What's creating the pressure is the lateral water in the pipe and the weight of that water. Not weight as in little g, mass. The density of the water that's in there, the mass, the weight, whatever you want to call it, that's not a force. That weight in the pipe laterally is what's causing the joints to bleed. Nothing to do with that little bit of water on top.
Of course it is.
It isn't. Shall I?
Well, I'm absolutely not being dishonest.
Well, let the audience decide.
Again, and I will share again.
No. Let the audience decide. Over 1 mile. Share again. Over 1 mile, slide demonstrated that his joints couldn't hold pressure.
I'm going to.
So where is the pressure coming from if it's not lateral?
I'm going to drop off now. Yeah, because you've been quite dishonest. We had a hour-long conversation on Jose's.
Toady, fuck off. You're a lying sack of shit. I'm not being dishonest. I'm proving you wrong in front of all of this audience. There is a lateral pressure caused by the mass, the water in the pipe over 1 mile that you deny is there.
So point 1, it's called hydraulic pressure, Anthony. Second
point, I don't care what it's called. It's bleeding at the joints.
And by the way, I've not yet called you dishonest. You've called me a number of names.
You just called me dishonest. Hang on, just called me. You're lying.
Hold on,
you're triggered and upset. I understand that.
Hold on. Could I just intersect?
Fucking lying. You've literally just called me dishonest.
Could I just intersect for just a second about the pipe? Is it possible that the pipe, just the seal had gone, the rubber seal on it, and it was leaking?
Well, it would have to be gone on all the joints. It was leaking on all the joints. That was why he ruled it inconclusive, but leaning towards sphere, which in other words, we all say, well, you failed to prove that there was curve, right? But it was leaking. Now, that leaking is coming from somewhere. Toady argues it's the little bit above, the vertical bit above. I'm saying it's the mile worth of density that's in the pipe, the mass of water in the pipe, pushing out in all directions because it's a container and it's under pressure by virtue of its own weight.
Okay,
mass.
Could I try a different scenario then? So, let's suppose you have this mile pipe and it's thick enough to stick your thumb in, right? So, if you have a mile of pipe holding all that water in, do you think you'd be able to stick your thumb in and plug the hole? Or would the entire weight of the water, perhaps a couple of ton of water that would be in that mile-long pipe, would that be too much for you to stick your thumb in and plug the hole?
I don't know. I'd have to play around with it.
I could plug the hole if it's laterally.
Yeah, I honestly think that you'd be able to plug the hole.
Yeah, which I've done, by the way, when I've had leaks before. Yep.
Yeah, but hang on. That may well be true.
Can I just come back to the point? There were never pipes involved in the first place, though, Anthony. On the screen is what we
never pipes above. Right, listen, the pipe above isn't doing anything. Where the weight is coming from is the lateral weight that you deny is there.
So let's just recap again, because we had agreement on this, and then you moved off. You say
No.
the mass
I haven't
above
moved off at. I haven't moved off at all. I've applied exactly what you asked me to demonstrate. Lateral pressure of 33 feet.
I asked you to demonstrate. Absolutely correct. You're right. I asked you to demonstrate 2 atmospheres here on this green submarine. Yeah, which goes sideways. It goes 33 foot away from the origin point. 0, goes 33 foot. I want you to show how there's 2 atmospheres here. I'm not a lying sack of shit.
So,
and I'm not
so 29 psi.
28. Yeah.
So
on
basically,
that's just below the water surface.
Yeah. So the question is, would that represent 28 psi laterally if you were to plug it with your finger? And the answer is you'd have to test it, but I don't know whether it would or not. 30 psi is not that high.
Hang on, you're not plugging anything with your finger. Let's just walk through this slowly, one step at a time, so that we all are on the same page. Okay. There is this. Can you see my mouse pointer? Because
yes.
Otherwise, I'm just talking. Right. Okay. Right. So this mass of water here, this bit up here that I'm sort of this square, right? That is the mass of water that's bearing down on this submarine. I say it's under acceleration due to gravity, and it's causing the pressure of 2 atmospheres on this submarine. You say it's due to the mass, right? Relative density disequilibrium. I say, therefore, if I make a situation sideways, i.e. not up and down in the, I won't call it gravity well because you don't like that, but up and down vertically, okay? If you go sideways here, and it's just below the surface, but you've still got the same mass of water here that can press on the submarine, if it's just mass and gravity is not coming into it at all, then this submarine should also be under 2 atmospheres. And by the way, the whole of the sea is open at the top. All right, it's not enclosed. It doesn't need to be enclosed because you get your 2 atmospheres down here. And I've given, I think, 10 reasons why I know this isn't the case, right? I know you don't get 2 atmospheres just below the surface of the water. I've never, ever seen it. I've been swimming and I've swum more than 33 feet, okay? Now, you've come up with something that's involving a lot of pipes and stuff, yeah, which I think confuses the matter. The concession I was looking for, and I know you don't like the word concession, but I'll explain what it is, and then you can have a think about it. The concession I was after is that the pressure of 2 atmospheres here is not due to the mass of water, because otherwise, with the same mass of water sideways, laterally, you would get 2 atmospheres here. Yeah, that was the concession that I was looking for, right? Just to be clear on what concession I was asking for. Or if you want to carry on and then find some evidence that we can get 2 atmospheres just beneath the surface of the water. But I mean, surely couldn't someone just, Anthony, dive in a swimming pool and swim 33 feet and show that they're not under 2 atmospheres of pressure? Would that not debunk this quite quickly?
I don't know. I've got to the point where I can't understand how you can't accept the point that I've demonstrated that when slided it over a mile and it bled at the corners, that demonstrates that there is lateral pressure caused by the volume of water that's in there. The vertical aspect is pretty much insignificant so long as it's not like 33 feet's worth. He's probably got a foot worth of water above it or whatever it is. I don't care what it is.
So I'll show you my... Okay.
I think it's more likely, in all honesty, Tony, that probably Slide just didn't seal everything correctly. That's my honest feeling. Because let's put it this way, right? If you go scuba,
it doesn't negate the fact that there is still lateral pressure that Toady denies by virtue of being lateral. So
if you go scuba diving in the ocean, and you go, let's just say in the North Sea, so you've got miles and miles of pressure all around you at the surface, and you dive just underneath the surface to a foot, you have lateral pressure all around you, and you're not being crushed by 10 miles on each side, even though it could only be 40 meters deep.
Well, I don't know whether there would be 2 atmospheres or not. What I do know is that there is an increase in pressure and it bled at the joints. Now, if I don't know how to scale that, there might be a way to plug in some kind of probe to measure it. But Toady's claim is that there is no increase in lateral pressure.
That's not my claim. You're straw manning there, Anthony.
I'm not.
Just to be fair, yes, you are.
I'm not. You asked me to demonstrate that there was lateral pressure of 33 feet, and I can.
2 atmospheres. Yeah, of 2 atmospheres.
I don't know whether it is 2 atmospheres or not, and you don't know that it's not.
Well, I do. I mean, I think Ranty's come up with a good thought experiment that debunks it. I came up with 10 that debunk it.
Thought experiments don't debunk anything. That's called pseudoscience. We need to actually do it real world.
So then I've swum in a swimming pool that's more than 33 foot long. I've dived in. Let's call that the point where I dive in, the origin point. I've swum 33 feet along. I've not been under 2 atmospheres of pressure, swimming just under the surface. I did it on holiday 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but what's pressing against the sides of the swimming pool when you jump in if there's not pressure there?
Right, so we're not saying that there is no pressure because obviously all this is under gravity. What you said is that it's the mass that caused the two atmosphere here. And so I'm giving you a situation where you've got the same mass, and because you were saying, it's not due to gravity going downwards, that actually, because the mass is the same around here, we should also see two atmospheres around this green one. And you were very insistent the other day that you could show it.
Yeah, and I have shown it, and you just deny it.
Hang on, you've come up with some experiment to do with some pipes and some water, poured into some pipes. I don't know. I've not seen the video. I suspect he may well have not sealed his things properly. I've never seen a pressure of two atmospheres like that. And you've got a hydraulic effect because it's all in a tube. Whereas here, this is open. We're just talking about the mass, two masses. And what I'm saying to you is that the two atmospheres is not due just to the mass, because otherwise we would see it sideways.
Right, but the reason why the tube is shut is to create the pressure at both ends.
But we don't need it here, do we, when we dive downwards? We don't need to enclose anything. In water, we get two atmospheres.
Of course. What's containing the water in to create the column in the first place?
Well, shall I explain to you what's happening? Which I think we
No, answer my question. What's containing the water in the first place to create the pressure?
Sorry, which bit of water are we talking about? Just so
the vertical column. What's the bit around the edges? The vertical bits that are white. What are they?
Rock here. We'll call it rock. Yeah.
So you've got a container,
and then it's open at the top. Well,
yes, you've got a container. You've got a container.
As you have sideways, of course, here as well.
That's why I need to create a container, because you've got a container there that you're ignoring, and I need to create a container to demonstrate the pressure laterally.
But Anthony, we could do this with, if we can measure the thing, you could use a pint glass, right? Okay, right. A pint glass by this is a container as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but turn the pint glass on the side so that it's not got a containment on one side of it. All the water falls out. Relative density disequilibrium, right?
Then we open it at the top. It doesn't need to be contained. None of this is contained, which was one of my other questions.
When you open it at the top, there's still lateral pressure in the side pushing against the sides.
This is all open at the top. You see, the reason that I don't like the tubes is the minute you use tubes, you start to get into hydraulics, which confuses what we're looking at, the purity of what we're looking at.
Or is it just the case that the hydraulics demonstrate my point for me and you don't like it?
No, it's nothing to do with that, Anthony, because you said 33 foot, this will be under two atmospheres. Yeah. Because it's due to the mass here. That's the debate.
No, I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth. What I said was, I can demonstrate lateral pressure, a point that you challenged me to do, and I can demonstrate it, and I did.
No, you didn't say that. You said that this submarine 2, would be under the same pressure as submarine 1 because the mass of the water surrounding it is the same, is what you said. Right, that's exactly what you said. It's recording Jose's thing, and I made a note of what you actually said. Yeah, which is here. You didn't say it would just be the submarine 2 diving to 23 under the sea will experience 2 atmospheres of pressure due to the mass of all the water that is above it, and so therefore, same mass. I'm not seeing 2 atmospheres here, and I really don't think it would be. I'm trying to be as generous as I can and not, crow and rub it in.
I don't know whether it would be 2 atmospheres or not, but I do know that there is lateral pressure. I was answering your challenge, which was based on lateral pressure, not based on 2 atmospheres. I don't know whether it would be or not.
Hang on. All right. So where did the debate start from? The debate started from, you said it's due to this relative density disequilibrium, and it's not due to gravity. Gravity doesn't come into it. It's just due to the mass of the water.
Correct.
So are you revising that now? It's not just due to the mass of the water.
No, it is to do with the mass of the water. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any pressure.
All right. So this is due to the mass of the water down here. Yeah?
Yes.
So how is the mass of water a bit less here? How do we get less than 2 atmospheres here? Because we've got the same mass. What formula is used to give a lesser pressure here? How does that work?
What formula? Yeah. Formulas don't prove anything.
So hang on. We've got the same amount of water. The mass of this water is, let's call it 100 kilograms. I'm just using a number. The mass of the water here is also 100 kilograms. So why are we getting lesser pressure here, but more here?
That's what your claim is. I'm not saying that it is or it isn't. What I'm saying is that the question that I was answering was demonstrate lateral pressure, not vertical. So I've demonstrated lateral pressure.
Of 2 atmospheres of the same.
I don't know whether it's 2 or water. I don't know whether it's 2 or not, but what I do know is that when we move 33 feet up to 1 mile, its joints bled, right? That tells me that there is pressure laterally. You can deny that if you want to, but it demonstrates the lateral pressure that I believe that I was addressing. Now, is it 2 atmospheres or not? I don't know. I don't know what would happen. But what I would say is that the weight of the water above is pushing down, the whole mass is pushing down in your vertical column. But in my example, it's being pushed evenly on both sides. So maybe that splits it in half. I don't know. But what I'm saying is I can demonstrate lateral pressure, the point that you asked me to do.
Okay, that wasn't the point. Our discussion started from, and I'm a pedant, so I'll carry on going back to the point, because this is how science is done, in my opinion.
Oh, you're a pedant.
Yeah.
So basically, not that I disagree with this, I agree with completely. The semanticness of your pedantry, or your pedantry, that's the right word. The semanticness of your pedantry is the point that we should be dealing with. I agree. Now, if I did say that I was to demonstrate 2 atmospheres of pressure, I don't remember doing that. What I believe I was doing was dealing with lateral pressure. That's the way I understood the challenge.
Okay, so as a pedant, I'll take you through it, and I think you're now being, I don't want to use the term dishonest because it'll upset you, right? And I can see you're upset, but let's go through it slowly then. We started from a debate that it was due to the mass. You said it's due to mass, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So the reason I asked you to show me lateral pressure, in this instance, is because if it is due to mass, it should work just due to the mass, shouldn't it? Right? It shouldn't matter what the shape is. You should get the same pressure because the same mass is there. Do you see what I mean? This is in one configuration, and you get 2 atmospheres because it's surrounded by this mass of water. If I stick it in another mass of water, wherever it happens to be, that green submarine should be under 2 atmospheres. Yeah, and it doesn't, does it? Near the surface, it's under lesser atmospheres of pressure, whereas when it dives down, it's under more.
2 atmospheres is only 29 psi, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not that much pressure. So if you had 33 feet laterally and then you removed your thumb off the end of it, would you get 33 psi or not? I don't know. I don't know what would happen.
Hang on. So let's just go through an example again. So let's say we just had this tube here, right? Okay, and it was like a load of car tires put together. So it's a very small kind of submarine, if you like, right? Load of car tires, 33 foot. If we dive down to 33 foot, we'll get 2 atmospheres of pressure. If we lay that pipe out laterally, we wouldn't get 33. As we move 33 foot, we would not get 2 atmospheres of pressure. It's just the same as the submarine in this tube. You could just seal these off if you wanted. Yeah, it makes no difference at all. Because we don't see it.
I don't know. I don't know whether you would or not. I think that you would get an increase in pressure by lateral pressure, the way I believe that I was demonstrating.
Hang on. Okay, so if that's the case, if that's the case because of the mass, let's look at Ranty's example, which is a very good one. It's the same as my swimmer. If you go scuba diving and you go, I don't know, half a meter under the water, meter even, yeah, there probably would be a little bit of pressure at a meter, a little more than just the surface, yeah, but there wouldn't be very much at a meter. And then you start swimming, you don't suddenly increase the pressure due to all that mass of water around you. Imagine in the North Sea or the Atlantic, there's just huge amounts of mass around you, aren't there?
Did you say you've got a 33-foot piece of pipe?
I have. I tried it yesterday, yeah.
So stick it up the side of your house like big blue marble, Billy No Mate's ball thing.
Yeah, and it'll show one atmosphere. Yeah.
Fill it with water and measure how far it squirts when you move it at the bottom, and just measure that distance. And then do the same when it's done laterally, like sideways. Take the end, but you have to have that little bit where it's got weight behind it to seal it, to create the pressure. So that the little bit above it, like even just a couple of millimeters. But the problem you'd have is the minute you moved water coming out of it, you would then lose it immediately, wouldn't you?
Because I was so concerned about this, I went and actually did it. Yeah, I genuinely did it yesterday. I turned the ends up slightly on the hose. So it was probably about, I had like 3 centimeters of height of water on each end. Nothing was spurting out. I filled it up with water until it actually came out of the other end. Yeah, it's not a see-through pipe.
No, you'd have to pull one of the ends back flat again, so that the water, then you've got the weight of the water pushing you out, not pushing you up vertically, pushing you out laterally.
But the only force that you're going to get on there is that little tiny bit on the end. Otherwise, it's going to have no force on it, Anthony, at all.
Well, that's why.
Because it's lateral, it'll only have like the centimetre that you've got, whatever the width of the pipe is. Yeah, there will be something, but it'll be absolutely tiny. I'll do it. I'll do the experiment at the weekend, yeah, but I won't use 33 feet because I'll do something that's transparent and show it manageable. I'll use a manometer, and you'll see it. You'll see the pressure. Upright, yeah, I'll do, I don't know, 10 foot or something. I think I've got a bit of 10-foot clear pipe.
So let's just say that does that. That would mean then that Slide did do his experiment really badly.
Very possibly.
Because he shouldn't be getting it bleeding over the mile if it's got good joints. I mean, I don't know what joints he used. I just know that was the reason why he declared that it was.
I don't know. So remember, as soon as you've got a pipe, you have a hydraulic effect. As soon as you've got like an L shape, yeah, that's different to what we're measuring here, which is just pressure due to the the natural dead weight of the water. Yep. Hydraulic.
It's that hydraulic that's the reason why you're going to get the pressure.
Because
you can't compress it.
Hydraulics doesn't work here. You see, the reason you get hydraulics is you've got a sealed system, right? And water, as we know, is pretty much incompressible, right? And so the way hydraulics work is, which I can't remember, is it Bernoulli's? I can't remember what the guy's principle is, but basically you can lift very, very heavy things by moving a little bit of water a long way, yeah? Which can lift, and that's how hydraulic jacks work, don't they? Yeah, because it's in a sealed system, yeah? So there's I can't remember what the formula is for hydraulics. I've looked at it recently, but there's a hydraulic formula, yeah, which is how car jacks work.
It is the Bernoulli effect.
Is it the Bernoulli effect? Okay, someone said that in the chat. Yeah, I can't remember because I only looked at it the other day. Yeah, when I was trying to research this, that is not what we're getting here. We're just getting pressure. We're not getting a hydraulic effect because it's open at the top. Yeah, the water is free to move and reshape itself wherever it goes.
Yeah, but it's open at the top in the medium of air. The water's like 1,000 times more dense than the air, isn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect it. You wouldn't expect it to displace the air because it would have to be like less dense than the air.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The next question was, right, why is this two atmospheres not shooting up and we're getting spouts on the surface? Because according to you in your disequilibrium model, yeah, this two atmospheres should actually be going up here, shouldn't it? Because it's only one atmosphere, so all the water should be, whatever you call it, entropy, right? Yep, it should all be heading up here and then shooting out into the air, shouldn't it? And it doesn't do that. What is it contained by? It's not got a container around it, has it? Here in our picture.
Oh right, okay, I see what you're saying, and I know the answer to that, and I can demonstrate that. I just need time to find the citation that I need, and that isn't going to be something I can get right this second. So what you're saying is, why isn't it spouting off the top? All right.
Well, so that's the next question, Anthony. The first question is, can you show the two atmospheres here? Yeah, because you're saying it's due to the mass. I think that is not proven, right? I'm not seeing the two atmospheres yet. Okay. The next question is, down at 33 foot, we have two atmospheres. Yep, that is fact and very demonstrable, right? There's two atmospheres at 33 foot because that's why we chose 33 foot. If there's two atmospheres here and there's one atmosphere here, under your relative density, the two atmospheres, this denser set of water under pressure, should be moving upwards to try to get to where the one is. Yeah. So why doesn't it move upwards and jet out the top? Because there's no container here. It's not like a wall over the top here. We're not putting anything in to stop it moving. So do you understand the question?
It's being contained by the weight of the water above it.
The weight, correct. The weight of the water above it. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not using weight in the context of little g being a force because we know that little g is not a force. I'm using it in its colloquial sense, which I should have said mass. I know that it's confusing.
Well, then we're back to the mass debate. You're saying it's contained. You're saying the two atmospheres here, the pressure is essentially contained by the mass. Let's call it the mass, right? So we don't get muddled up and argue over weight. Yep. Therefore, why doesn't that happen sideways? We get back to the sideways question then, if it is being contained by the mass.
Yeah, but why is it that when you say, all right, so why is it that you're ignoring the fact that little g isn't a force? Why are you treating it as a force when everywhere it says it's not?
I'm not interested in that. I can calculate these things. These are things that are simple.
Yeah, but no, hang on.
I can go out and measure them. Hang on. I can calculate with them.
Listen,
you want to have an argument? I know about gravity because it'll make you feel better.
No. I want to know why. I want to know why you're going against the current science, which states that if weight is mass times little g, and we know that according to Rumpus that mass is not a force, everybody else in science is saying that little g is not a force either. But you're treating it as a force. So I want to know why.
Well, we're not. We're just looking at calculations here to do with atmospheres.
You are because you're saying
the weight of the water. No. What I'm doing is this. I'm doing exactly this. This is what I'm doing.
So see on the left hand side, you've got H equals 1 atmosphere divided by that. See that?
G, that little G times rho. That's H2O. Yeah, that's rho H2O.
Yeah, that little g there, that's the bit that's the problem.
For you, but it is observable. We measure it. Well, it's measurable. Yeah, I've measured it. Definitely measured that one myself several times. and we calculate it. Now we can have a separate conversation another time about gravity. It's not my best topic, and I've been very free and I've admitted that. Yeah, I can't follow Einstein's maths. It's very, very complicated. Yep. So there's probably better people than me to talk to about that. But what I can certainly do is I can demonstrate, as per the picture that we've seen here, yeah, that I don't think it's due to the mass alone. And I think you need to come up with a better explanation than just it's the mass.
It's to do with the column above it, the weight of the water, not the weight,
the weight,
g.
I agree. It is the weight above it. I agree it's the weight. Yeah.
All right. So if you're prepared to accept that when I say the weight, can you knock off your screen share? I want to know why you're going to reject this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do I press to knock up my screen share? I know you want to try and recover somewhat. Okay. There we go. I'll give you another 20 minutes. I think about 12.
Well, I'll only need 2. Don't worry.
All right. Okay.
So I heard, who was it today? It was...
There's a lot of people talking.
Would you like me to judge your pipe argument there, Tony?
Not yet.
Okay.
I heard Gem Panda in Jose's chat today, and he said, was it Gem Panda? Let me remember who it was. No, I think it was Tim Osman. It was Tim Osman on the hangout that he had the other night. And he said that he thinks he misrepresents our position when he says that we found one citation from George Musa who said that gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. Mm-hmm. Well, it isn't just George Musa that's doing this. Everybody's saying that gravity is not a force. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you look, Newton was wrong. Einstein's wrong as well, but at the moment, Einstein's the current science. Mm-hmm. But the point is that if you're going to say that weight... Mm-hmm. Hang on. If you're going to say that weight is a force and mass is not a force, everything that you knew about gravity is wrong. This is in the context of the little g part of the weight formula. Weight equals mass times little g. And basically it talks about the current position with different interpretations and whatever for gravity. But the point I want you to look at is this bit. So gravity is not the force of attraction that makes things fall straight down. So if you're prepared to accept when I use the word weight colloquially, that somehow that supports the assertion that gravity is a force, why do you dismiss everywhere in science that says that gravity is not a force?
So I don't dismiss them, and I think I've given my articulation before, but I'll try and give it again because I guess some people are interested, yeah? I grew up and the physics I learned, Newton was it, right? And I understood that, and we measured it, and we did all sorts of ticker tape timers and stuff I spoke about the other day, right? And I really got very, very familiar with it. And I can calculate it in all of these, good things that we're showing, right? Yeah, in the experiment, the barometer, how we get atmospheric pressure, how we get some buoyancy forces. I can do that, okay? Now, technically, it may well be true that gravity in itself, within Einsteinian understanding, he was probably a very, very clever man. He certainly seemed clever. The clips I've seen on him said it isn't technically a force in, 4-dimensional, whatever it happens to be. Yep. And that may well be the case. Okay. The reality is when it intrudes into our world, certainly the world that I live in, the real world, because I'm very much, as you know, a very practical person, a very real world person who goes and does stuff with stuff, right? I bought a P900 because I like to do stuff. I did my barometer experiment and bought a barometer to show Spurs that there could be pressure without a change in temperature, yeah? I'm someone who does practical things, yeah? I'm a practical person. And okay. I'm talking about the practical world. So the theory of it, you may well be right. The others may well be right. I don't want to articulate who is perhaps right, but I'm seeing a force, whether we want to call it gravity, little g, or, Flugenstein or something else, right? Yeah, that's fine. We can call it what we like, but I can see it, I can predict, and I can make predictions with it, and then I can show things as we've just done. Yeah, we can show there isn't lateral pressure when we go in the submarine sideways, but there is when we go down. So, you could be right, Anthony. I don't know. I don't want to say above my pay grade because that sounds condescending, yeah? And I'm quite a clever guy, actually. But I can't follow Einstein's formulas, yeah? Okay, and I don't think they've discovered what gravity comes from. I don't think they've discovered gravitons yet, as far as I understand it.
Okay, so I'm going to have to stop because I don't want to be rude, but I do want to pick you up on what you just said. Your words were, and I quote, in the real world. In the real world, if you're now going to start referencing gravity as a force, what world does it exist in where gravity is not a force?
So can I ask another question then? In that formula that we use, that I use to calculate those calculations there, yeah, and in the barometer calculation,
Yeah.
What would you like me to do? Just throw away the force that I see and just ignore it?
Well, I want you to accept that it's everywhere that gravity is not a force, right? The fact that you want to calculate it as being a force simply states that your maths that you're calculating.
By the way, I
happens
fully
to.
agree. It's not a real force. I fully agree that, by the way.
It's not even a fake force. It's not a force.
It's like, I don't know, centrifugal force or something, right? Yeah, it's like I don't know, whatever. I don't know what you want to call that. It's a funny state. It's not a thing that we come across commonly, right? Normally, I deal in the real world with real things that are real, right? I see a paintbrush. I painted the fence this weekend. It wasn't a theoretical paintbrush, right? But when you're dealing with these complicated interactions we have in the world, maybe there is a class of thing that isn't really a force, but it looks like a force because it acts like one. We've seen that with the whole Coriolis effect, haven't we? Yeah. Which again, I sort of understand, but I find that a little bit troubling, if I'm honest. Yeah. Like a lot of people, right? I'm an honest guy, as you know. I find Coriolis a little bit troubling, and I've spent a lot of time trying to understand it because I find it kind of niggles me a bit. Yeah, Coriolis. It niggles me a lot more than the buoyancy force or the barometer force here. Yeah. So if you want to talk to me about things that niggle me, Coriolis is, I'm much more unhappy with that than I am with gravity. Yeah, gravity, I'm really pretty down with gravity. Excuse the pun.
That's okay. So,
and I'm being honest. You asked me to be honest, and a little bit honest. I'm being honest. Coriolis, I find difficult, and I'd like a better explanation. As I'm sure would lots of us, as would Ranty, I believe. Yep, with the bullet, and I'd like to see it. Yeah, that's what I'd love to do. I'd love to see it. I know it's a very small force and so forth, or fake force, but I'd like to see it. Sorry, but over to you.
I want to go to the.
Are you okay now? Because you were upset earlier and calling me a lot of names, and I didn't want to just drop off. And we're talking reasonably civilly now. Is that just part of what happens?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Right. Here we go.
I check because I don't know whether I should continue or drop off. I don't know what the most appropriate thing to do is.
Well, I want to cite to you from this George Mutter article. This is a beautiful poetry line that is absolutely beautiful. I mean, the guy should have been a poet. When you see an apple fall from a tree, you are watching it roll across the contours of time. There's no force there. It's literally everywhere. I mean, I can tell that what's his name, Tim Osman, hasn't been keeping up to date with the current position because he thinks it's an isolated incident.
By the way, that's a nice reread that phrase. It's a nice phrase. I agree with you. Just reread it again. I like the idea of that. It's quite a nice idea.
When you see an apple fall from the tree, because this is where Julian Bloomfield, this guy that basically stopped speaking to me, I asked this Julian Bloomfield what is it that makes Newton's apple start to move as it snaps the stalk off the tree?
Yep.
And Musa says, when you see an apple fall from a tree, you are watching it roll across the contours of time, right? Whatever that means, it sounds lovely.
Well, I'm an English graduate, and I agree. I love that idea. It's quite spacey, and I can almost imagine that in my head, almost as if time is like this sort of great big wave, right? And the apple's doing. In reality, we see an apple fall from a tree, right? Don't we? But it could well be. Yeah, that it is falling across the contours of time. I agree with you. It's very well.
Let's go back to your claim. In the real world, you can calculate this thing as a force. Well, your science doesn't allow for it to be a force, and you shouldn't really be calculating it to be a force. Well, what you're actually doing is applying a set of mathematics that appears to match the observed phenomena of things falling down.
I agree. You're correct. I agree with you so far. That's correct. I'm using a set of maths, and I'm using it as a force or pseudo force, whatever you want to call it, in a calculation that works every single time for the situations I try it in, the ones that we've seen here, the buoyancy and the two atmospheres. Yeah. Which to me makes it real enough. Whether the water is moving through the contours of time, right? That's like the apple, or whether it is actually under this acceleration due to gravity, right? Because when I was a child, I learned about gravity. I imagined gravity a bit like magnetism in my head. This is, by the way, I'm not saying this is right. This is how I Toady imagined it. I imagined, because I played a lot with magnets as a kid, right? I love magnets. You can make them levitate and stuff like that. No, I love magnets. And so I imagined gravity was just a bit like that. It was this unusual thing that pulled stuff towards it, which we couldn't see. Yeah.
But in the contour of the bigger picture, your claim was the vertical column of 33 feet was being gravitationally pulled down, and that's what gave it its weight. Correct.
The one atmosphere that we see. Yeah.
But everywhere it's written that it's not a force.
Well,
So
that's fine.
it can't be that doing it, can it? It can only be the mass.
Well, it's the mass under that force that we see. It's the whatever it is. It's the water in that pipe trending down through the contours of time. Yep, towards the center of the Earth.
Right.
Yep.
But this is where we go back to Rumpus's claim that he says that scales are a force measuring device.
Right,
well,
I
if
think
you've
they
got
are. I
scales,
measure forces with them.
if you've got scales on the underside of that container, that's the vertical column, that's something is pushing down on them scales to emit a reading, right? But we know that according to current science, that mass is not a force, but literally everywhere, neither is gravity, is not a force either, but something's pushing down on them scales. And we know it's not gravity. So what is pushing down on the scales to demonstrate the value that's being shown on the reader? Because they're a force measuring device according to Rumpus.
I don't understand the question really.
Mass is not a force, but we know gravity is not a force. But Rumpus claims that scales are a force measuring device, and there is a number on them.
Gravity isn't a real force, but when you look at it in our 3D world through the contours of time, it manifests itself clearly as a force because I measured it on scales, as you say.
It doesn't. So when Newton's apple falls and it's rolling through the contours of time, what Einstein would say is that it is that he would say that the mass of the apple and the mass of the Earth warp the gap of the gap in between the two items, warps that space time, and the apple falls into that warping of light in the middle between the two objects. That's what he would say.
So he could well be right. The point is, I'm dealing with practical things.
Not really. He can't be right because it's a mathematical construct that only exists in paper in the form of mathematics.
So, all right,
it doesn't
let me
exist
rephrase
in the real
that.
world.
He might be right. He might be wrong. It may be something else. It may be the hidden variable that we don't see, right? It could be whatever we like.
What hidden variable we don't see? Why can't it simply be the case that the apple's more dense than the medium it's in?
Because that's why we looked at the example with the submarine. And you don't get the two atmospheres. And if it was due to the mass, just the mass alone, we've constructed a scenario where it's the same mass, Anthony. That's why we did it. It's an equivalent mass in the picture that we showed earlier. So if it was just the mass, if you were correct, which is why I think you need to develop your theory a bit more if I'm being polite, I'm not saying go and look at gravity. You may come up with something that's the hidden variable, right? This hidden thing that isn't gravity, it's another thing. It's possible people do come up with discoveries. I think it's unlikely, but you might.
What hidden variable?
So what I'm saying is, right, you're asking me to accept something, and what I'm saying is I pretty much trust that Einstein's mostly got it right, but you're saying he might be completely wrong because it's a mathematical construct. So what I'm saying is there is definitely something going on. There's an effect there. We are not getting two atmospheres at 33 feet away, but we are when we go downwards, right? Our explanation is, Einstein's explanation, Newton's explanation, is it's due to gravity, which you can think of as a force of the whole Musa thing, right, which I know you've well rehearsed in. The fact is we see that effect, right? I'm not making that up. It is an effect, and we do see it, and we've talked it to probably death, right? If it is just mass, I'm afraid your theory doesn't work. So you need something else. It could be mass and a hidden variable, or it could be mass and the Einsteinian force due to gravity, right? I'm just saying, I'm giving you the option that you might find something that someone's missed.
I'm happy to say that the pressure may not be 30 psi, but I'm not happy for you to claim a victory when it's literally everywhere. Look at this one. Newton was wrong. Scientists dismiss, right, Newton's theory of gravity and warn that Einstein's next. Do we know what dismiss means? It's similar to supersede.
So would you admit, okay, I'll go for this concession then, because I knew you wouldn't concede anyway. Go for this concession. You haven't yet fully explained it then. If it is the mass, it's more than just the mass, because I've given you a scenario where the mass is the same, right? It may be mass plus the hidden variable, which I'm talking about, right? And by the way, I haven't just invented this hidden variable. It is a thing that's spoken about in science, yeah? I mean, it is a genuine thing.
Only in theoretical physics that's got no application in the experimental world, right?
Well, so you then, if you've got everything in front of you in the example we've given with the submarine and that, might be able to find what the hidden variable is then. It won't be hidden anymore. You'll have found it, right? It will be Riley's variable or whatever, right? You know, who knows?
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. You're making shit up. Listen to what this says.
Then you should be able to explain it then, because I say it's gravity, right? You disagree.
It's just caused by the mass of the water above the thing. Look, Newton was wrong.
Anthony, we've been around that one. If it is just the mass of the water, Why doesn't it work
Yeah,
lateral?
it is just the mass. We know. Listen, it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. What does matter is it's definitely not your gravity that's causing anything, because as it says everywhere that you lot are
You
just
can't disprove it
ignoring.
with this, though, right?
Yeah, I can
Because
disprove it. Literally, it says Newton's theory of gravity, and one that Newton is widely regarded as the greatest scientist of all time. However, groundbreaking theoretical physics, black hole research nonsense has now disproved Newton's theory of gravity, and even Albert Einstein's theories are starting to fray around the edges, as scientists have warned. Look at this. August
they
13th,
love this stuff, don't they?
2019.
But yeah, could well be the case. Yeah.
So disproved Newton's theory of gravity, right? That's not refined. That's not made better or added to or any of that bullshit.
But
that
you're
you
talking to
guys
someone who
ascribe
doesn't
to.
actually worry about it much. I mean, I know Rumpus gets quite heated about this, and probably George and others. Me less so, right? I just know I can measure some stuff. I know it isn't just the mass. I can do these calculations. They work every time I do them. And it's up for others to work out what the root cause is. And I'm not saying I'm not interested.
Can you accept that Newton's theory of gravity has been disproved, yes or no?
Newton's theory of gravity. Does that
Literally on
disprove his
screen.
calculations? No. I'm just thinking about it. You're asking.
Well,
big
it's
questions
literally
here.
on screen. You don't really get much choice. It's either yes or no.
I
and
would
it's on
say.
screen.
I would say, yeah. I think Newton probably dissed his own theory because the best he could come up with that it was, some invisible force reaching out through space. Yep, and I think he even disproved it himself, didn't he? He said anyone who considers that is kind of crazy. I can't remember what his actual words were. He said it more eloquently than I've just said it. So I think, Newton is, from what we've seen, possibly incomplete, but is for 99% of what we do absolutely spot on.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me further refine. Let me further refine it, because you're not giving the answer that this document and every other document out there says. We can absolutely rule out Newton's law of gravity. Our observations are consistent with Einstein's theory of general relativity. Not that I agree with Einstein, but we can absolutely rule out Newton's law of gravity.
Yeah,
Will you now concede?
Yeah.
Will you now concede that Newton's law of gravity is wrong?
Well, so there's a difference between rules out, i.e. you can't use, I suppose they're talking about here, Newtonian mechanics
what about that word?
Understand general relativity, which you can't.
What about that word that proves?
Well, you're doing your lawyer's thing and you're sticky on words. And what I'm saying is it's a bit like, I don't know, bikes and cars, right? A car's pretty much ruled out bikes, but in certain cases people still use bikes. I'd say Newton's laws are actually a little bit more useful than bikes because not that many people ride bikes these days. But, I'm trying to think of a good analogy and I can't on the fly. But
let's try it again. Let's try it again.
What I need to do.
Let's try it again. My question is, can you now accept that Newton's law of gravity is wrong? It reads, Einstein's right, at least for now. We can absolutely rule out Newton's law of gravity. It's almost as if this was written for us, because it's superseded. You didn't like that word. It was refined. It was added to. It's supported. It's black and white in your face. It's absolutely ruled out Newton's law of gravity. Will you now concede?
Well, no, because I use it, so it still works.
What do you mean, no?
What I need it for. Right?
How can you deny this? Absolutely rules out, doesn't allow you to say that you can reject it.
I don't know who Professor Gez in the Daily Express is. I'd have to read up a little bit more about the article. Yeah.
Well, let's find out what his name is.
I'm not a hasty person. I'm not a hasty person who rushes into these things. You're not going to get me to say that I'm throwing away Newtonian gravity and focusing on an Einstein.
I'm not asking you to focus on Einstein. I'm asking you to absolutely.
I know you believe in
Newton.
gravity. I know you believe in gravity anyway, right? You gave that to me ages ago, so I know you believe in it, Anthony. Yeah, you know it's real. I know it's real. We both know it's real.
I'm asking you to absolutely rule out Newton's laws of gravity. It's literally in black and white on screen.
Well, I don't think I can rule them out.
I don't care. It's black and white on your screen. Everybody says it. I've got 5 sites, including Wikipedia. Gravity is most accurately described by the theory of general relativity, which describes gravity not as a force. Come on. Newtonian principles for gravity are gone. So if you're calculating using maths for gravity as a force, well, we come back to the problem with the scales being the force measuring device. Something's pushing down on the scales, it's measuring something, and mass is not a force according to Rumpus, and neither is thingy, neither is gravity.
So I think what I've proven is that we need you need to find a better explanation than just using mass, because clearly mass on its own doesn't cut it. Yeah. And certainly the calculations that I make and can predict and what we see in the real world in response to that looks pretty believable in terms of the discussion that we are having around the submarines moving around in the water. I'm not saying in all cases, but where the submarines move in the water. Yeah, I need to think about how much of Newtonian theory has been supplanted. Yeah, because again, I'm not an expert on it. So you're kind of taking it up sideways. I don't know why you have such a problem with it. I don't actually genuinely. That's a genuine question, by the way. It's not just one for the debate. I genuinely
because you're calculating for a force that doesn't exist.
But the force is clearly there. We clearly see it and we clearly measure it.
No.
Whether
when
it
you say the force
exists or not, it's
when you say
there.
the force, would you mind getting any definition in physics of the word force on screen?
Right, I don't understand the question really. I mean, I can.
You just said that the force is definitely there. Well, okay, let's see. Let's have a definition of the word force.
Right, I'm not. This will go on all night. Yeah, I've got to get to bed. I've got to get up 6 o'clock tomorrow and traipse into London.
So just concede that Newtonian gravitation is no longer current science, and you shouldn't even be calculating for it, even though the math happens to work
I'm going to
out.
carry on calculating because it works for what I need it to do on the Earth.
No, it doesn't work.
I concede that there is better science around.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It just seems to match. Listen, it just seems to match the claimed observed phenomena that you believe that you're seeing. That doesn't mean that it's causing anything, and it doesn't mean that it's the current science, because we know it's expressly stated everywhere that it's not.
I didn't say what its cause was, did I? I didn't. I wasn't as brave as to go for the cause. And I still say that you need to
but you did describe it as a force.
You need to find a better model, I think. You need to find a much better model than just mass, because clearly mass alone with your relative density disequilibrium doesn't work. Yeah, so you need a better description.
No. Mass alone doesn't explain the scenario that you gave me. I'll happily concede that. But okay. I want you to concede that it's not fucking gravity doing it either.
No, I can't not concede it's gravity, because I do know that it is something I believe to be a force called gravity. Yeah,
something you believe.
Yes. Well, I'll accept. So I can see it and I can measure it, right? I don't know what its cause is.
I'll accept that
I believe that it's gravity.
I'll accept that you believe that there's this thing called gravity, right? Nobody else in science agrees with you. Rumpus is being dishonest and he's misleading you. And if you're believing anything that Fight the Flat Earth says, you are an absolute moron. But if you want to believe that, you can believe that.
I don't know who he is. I don't listen to him.
Yeah, well, you're being misled by people like the Rumpus. But if you still want to believe...
In what way?
Because every science article, be it popular science or otherwise, tells you gravity is not a force. But if you want to believe it, Toady, you can believe it.
Okay, can I just interrupt for just a second? We've had 2 super chats. So the first one was OMG Riley. This is your greatest lie to date. Now that was from Aaron Armstrong. That was a while ago about your pipe example. However, the most recent one was from JQ, who says, Toady, have you just proved that gravity is definitely a force based on your water pressure example?
Say that again.
Read that again.
Have you just proved that gravity is definitely a force based on your water pressure example?
And who's done that super chat?
JQ. He's a flat earther.
JQ? He hasn't proved it because all of his current science tells him that gravity is not a force. Newtonian principles are gone. Absolutely ruled out, it says. Absolutely ruled out. So if Toady has proved that gravity is a force, you better write your paper and submit it to Nature and tell everybody that gravity is a force again. It's not been a force since 1915, guys.
Well, seems to work, that's all.
Yeah, you can believe it. You can believe it. But do me a favour.
But Anthony, you need to come up with what the hidden variable is then, yeah? Or
what hidden variable? What hidden variable?
The mass alone doesn't work, does it, right? Yeah. And the thing we're arguing over is the G, isn't it? Because I agree that there is mass there, but it's under acceleration.
Not arguing over the G. There's no argument. It's not been a force since 1915.
Well, we are arguing
the fact
over the G.
that you want to make it a force doesn't make it a force. But if you want to believe that it's a force, you can believe that it's a force if you want. But do me a favour. Don't preach your bullshit to other people and tell them that these are just your beliefs and they are not supported by current science if you start referencing gravity as a force.
Right, QED. So I think I've made the point, and it'd be great if you can come back with a good explanation for.
Do you know what? That pregnant pause was beautiful. That pregnant pause was beautiful.
And do you know why I paused? Because I'm trying not to annoy you. I could have crowed here quite a lot, but I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can't crow. Nobody in science agrees with you that gravity is a force.
Okay.
So
right.
if you're calculating for weight with little g, you are literally making shit up.
I think it's probably well demonstrated. What I've demonstrated tonight, I think, is there, but that's fine.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So
just one.
JQ.
Yeah. There you go. You read it, Tony.
It says JQ. He says Toady. Answer the question, Toady. Did you prove it or not? If so, write it up and collect your Nobel Prize. I echo those words. Did you prove gravity by your submarine example?
What I proved was that your assertion that mass alone created the pressure in the atmosphere isn't the case. I showed calculations on the screen that do work and do explain the scenario that we saw, where the boat sinks, or it goes up, or it goes to 33 feet and it's in 2 atmospheres. That's what I showed. If you want to think that proves gravity exists, that's fantastic. I use G. It's in the calculations. Of course it is. Yeah. But, that's as far as I'm going to go. I don't think I'm going to be collecting any Nobel Prizes for understanding buoyancy and density anytime soon, because I think most school children understand it.
Toady, will you do me a genuine favour? If you believe that gravity is a force, because that is what you've said, you do believe gravity is a force, why don't you write to Nature, tell them about your theoretical experiment with submarines, and tell them it proves gravity to be a force, and let's see what happens.
Surely it should be the other way, Anthony. You know it's due just to mass.
Well,
surely
I've just cited you 5.
To Nature.
I've just cited you 5 citations that demonstrate that gravity is not a force.
I'm going to step my game up a little bit, because people are unhappy in the chat that I'm not really taking you to task, and I've tried carefully because I didn't want to upset you. Yeah. So, we're pretty much at the end now.
Okay.
So we're pretty much at the end now.
Another super chat from JQ. QED, ? Write it up and collect your Nobel.
Yeah, so the peanut gallery can throw lots of peanuts, because that's what they like to do, and that's fine. I'm very happy that they do that. I think that I proved the point and showed what I needed to tonight. I think I did it in a nice way, and I think I listened through a lot of upset and insults. I know you want to recover, Anthony, and so you go into gravity because it's your topic, and that's fine. And I really say that, yeah, because I'm a nice guy.
It's because you picked me up on when I said weight. I meant it in the colloquial sense, and you know I did. But because you picked me up on that word weight, right, that means that you're applying little g as a force. So I'm just going to pull that apart.
Oh, I'm being friendly here because I'm a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want you to concede that Newtonian principles for gravitation are.
I'm not conceding anything, right? I came here.
That means you're a current science denier. Pop science, current science, all forms of science. You're a denier.
Okay, whatever you say.
No, not whatever I say. The citations don't support your claim, your belief.
Whatever you say. I know people want to see me shouting, getting upset. It's not my way. Yeah, my way is just to use,
anyone that thinks gravity is a force, be it Toady or Rumpus or anybody else, or even on our side, if you think gravity is a force, nobody in science agrees with you. Everybody says that gravity, if it exists at all, isn't a force. And by talking about it, it's reifying the fact that it might exist. There's no evidence for it. You can't even define it. So let's not talk about gravity anymore.
Other than the fact that thousands of engineers every day use it. I use it reasonably often.
Calculating for the presumed effect.
It works.
Listen. Let me say back to you what I said to them people in Liverpool. Mathematics calculates the predicted effect, right? And if the predicted effect is that it goes up or down by a velocity, great. But is that proving the thing that's causing it? And the answer, of course, is no. Maths doesn't prove anything other than itself.
Well, I think I differ on that, but it's getting late. So it's a good point to call it a day. We're still talking, which is also good, and I'm sure we'll have some more debates. I would love you to push in a little bit more into this mass, lateral mass thing, and do an experiment or show something happening there, or explain the 2 atmospheres. Yeah, I'm not sure you'll be able to show the 2 atmospheres, so therefore I think you just need to develop your theory.
No, I'm happy to concede I might not be able to show the 2 atmospheres. The way I understood what I was dealing with was lateral pressure caused by mass of the volume of water. That's what I thought I was doing. Now, if that wasn't what I was doing, then I've misunderstood, and I don't know whether I could demonstrate 2 atmospheres of pressure. I'm happy to concede that, but it's not being caused by gravity. It's being caused by the volume of water, the mass of the water being stacked above it in a column. That's what's causing it, but no force.
Well, I absolutely agree, But then when we do it sideways, we don't see it because it isn't under that force of gravity.
No,
right?
because it isn't being stacked just on top of each other. It's like if you put 10 people on top of you, it's going to work. But if you put 10 people next to you side by side, that's not going to work as much, is
But why is that then? Why is that then, Anthony? Why? If it's the mass, it should just be the same, shouldn't it? Sideways, up, down.
Yeah, but you're not stacking them, are you?
Can I just say that Astro King's just put a comment in, he wants me to read it out. He says, gravity still follows the force equation.
What force equation?
That was his comment.
If gravity follows the force equation, great. Doesn't prove it's a force. What proves it? What proves that it's a force? Let's just say gravity existed, Toady. What would you do to prove that gravity was actually a force?
So I've proven gravity. I've got my physics book. I showed the paper from it the other day. Yeah.
What would you do? What would you do to prove that gravity was a force?
I dropped some weights and I measured the way in which they fell, and then I tried to get rid of any other variables.
No, you'd wiggle it. That's what scientific method requires.
Well, okay, and then we go down the scientific method argument, which I think we've had once, but I'm sure we can do that again. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, we'll leave it there. So thanks very much, Ranty. Thanks very much, Anthony. At least it was a reasonably civil debate. There was a few things thrown. It'd be nice for you to come back with some explanation around this MASH thing, Anthony.
It's just I've told you, it's just stacking it on top. It's just stacking it on top. But I want you to concede that it's not gravity.
Stacking on top at all, is it? Right?
Water of course it is.
No,
of course
water
it is.
Water doesn't come in stackable units. You've said
of course
it's
it does.
Mass.
Of course it does. You stick it in a container and then it's stackable.
So Ranty, would you like just to finally, before we go, just to see what your view on this is, since it was a fight night, and there wasn't probably much fighting?
My view on the pipe is that it didn't really prove Tony's position. That's just my view.
Yeah, hang on. To be fair though, I thought I was demonstrating lateral pressure inside the pipe. I didn't think I was doing 2 atmospheres.
All right, fair enough. Well,
not fair enough, because he did. He absolutely did, and we can clip it out of Jose's show if we want, right? And I'm sure somebody will.
Clip it out.
Yeah, but how about the fact that there is all this lateral pressure when you go swimming in the sea, Ranty? What's your view on that? Do we see it due to mass?
You wouldn't feel it. I've been scuba diving many a time, and you don't feel it when you're under a foot or 2 of water. If you would, you'd be crushed instantly.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but that still doesn't make gravity a force, though.
I'm not saying it. At no point was I trying to prove gravity is a force here, was I?
Yeah,
I was trying
because you attributed the weight of the column of water to be the force of gravity pulling down on it.
Well, that wasn't my intent, was it? I didn't start here by saying gravity is a force. I wasn't. I mean,
no, well, you did attribute the reason for why there's a column
only
of water
when I came to the calculation.
Gravity.
Yeah, when you insisted it didn't happen. Yeah. I mean, I think it is a nice proof, actually, thinking about it now, but that wasn't my intent, right? I'm not that devious.
It's not a nice proof at all.
Well, it proves that something's there pulling it down.
Yeah, the mass of the water, the column of water above you, the mass of that water.
But, yeah, okay. Whatever.
It's not a force. You can tell everybody that you believe it, but please tell everybody that nobody else in science agrees with you, because there is no evidence to support the assertion that gravity is a force. It's not been since 1915.
Okay.
And it's been double debunked by 1926 when there was a full explanation by quantum mechanics that demonstrated it. Apparently, I don't know how strong that argument is.
Anthony, we know force equals F equals ma. We know that, right?
No,
okay?
it doesn't.
That.
Why do you say that? That was demonstrably wrong.
Well, I took the mass that was above the thing and I multiplied it by the acceleration, and it's funnily enough we get the force.
Right. Anyway. Do you know who Richard Feynman is?
I do, yeah.
Right. He literally declared that Newtonian principles for gravitation or Newtonian principles for momentum were wrong, and his F equals ma is cited by him as being wrong. Would you like the citation that you can ponder and come back to me and admit?
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah. No, I'd like to see that. But I believe F equals ma because it works for me. Right, so I'm not going to ditch it. You know, there may be some more abstruse thing with some other bits in it, and I'll happily look at it, and I genuinely will. Yeah.
So if I get on screen,
I see Arwin in the chat is still talking about your relative densities, Earhter model or whatever we're calling it. Yeah. So it'd be great. Maybe you can talk to Arwin and then come up with some ideas about what is causing it, and come up with an articulation of why it doesn't work sideways. Yeah.
So if I bring up on screen right now a citation that literally says in black and white F equals ma is wrong, will you accept it? From Feynman.
Well, I'll accept that he says that it's wrong. I'd obviously need to read what it's all about, so I'm not going to do it on the fly, am I? But But do
would
show me
you
the
agree-
article, because I am interested, because I believe that F equals ma.
But would you agree that if Feynman says that F equals ma, the fact that he says it probably means that F equals ma might not be right? Would you
Well,
at least
I need to
concede
look
that?
into it. Of course, Feynman was, quite a notable physicist. If he says F equals ma, doesn't exist or is totally wrong, it is, of course, be interested to look into it. Now, it may be in certain areas it's not right, or it doesn't work off the Earth or something. Again, it's a lot of these things are beyond me, Anthony, because you're looking for them, right? It's your legal mind. You've got that kind of searching mind to look for the sort of threads in an argument that's a little bit wrong, and you pull at that thread till it untangles, right? And that's a skill, right? We know it is, yeah? I just deal with practical things. I'm a practical guy.
Okay. I'm just looking for it. Bear with me. It's in one of his lectures. I'm just trying to find exactly which one it is. I haven't got it saved. Oh, hang on. It might be here.
Your chat's quite heated. Well, I haven't looked at it before. I just glanced at it now, and I can see that it's up and down, and all sorts of people are getting uppity.
We've got another super chat from JQ who says, "A proof? ? Say that again, Toady. Say you just prove gravity is a force, and then tell us all how strong the sides of an above-ground pool need to be."
Don't see his point there, really. Does he? It'd be very good for him to explain what he means. Yeah, I mean, gravity obviously is a force. No,
it isn't.
Of a pool. Okay. Well, why don't you let Bob in? Yeah, because Bob's. I think you just offered for Bob to come in. So I'll go on silent while you're looking for that, and if you just drop it in the.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
So would you like me to present it on screen, or do you trust me?
Yeah. Well,
Right, here we go.
Don't mind. Yeah, stick it on screen, then everyone can see it, can't they?
Can you see that on screen? Text.
I can see F equals ma 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Quite
this
small,
is
isn't it?
yeah. What I'll do. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it on my hang on. Let me just swap that over. Stop sharing. I'll put it on my other screen that's better sized. It'll come out bigger. Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So, Feynman lectures, caltech.edu. You don't get much more credible than this. This is like the highest that we can really go. Look at what it says. It says the real content of Newton's laws is this.
He's been dead 20 years though, hasn't he? Don't you think some people have superseded him, like Julian Vickers and whatever the other guy that you were talking about was?
Supersede Julian Bloomfield. Because he's a theoretical physicist that his expertise is in general relativity. So no, I wouldn't say that he superseded him. Maybe he has, but I wouldn't say that because theoretical physics has got absolutely no experimental application, and by definition is pseudoscience. At least this guy was arguing about quantum mechanics and forces that we can test and stuff. But yeah, let me read what it says. The real content of Newton's laws is this, that the force supposed to have some independent properties in addition to the law F equals ma, but the specific independent properties that the force has were not completely described by Newton or anybody else, and therefore the physical law F equals ma is an incomplete law. It implies that if we study the mass times the acceleration and call the product the force, i.e. if we study the characteristics of force as a program of interest, then we shall find that the forces have some simplicity. The law is a good program for analysing nature. It is a suggestion that forces will be simple. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I thought it was going to be there.
All right. So I'm fine with all that. That all kind of makes
it's not
sense. All right. Okay.
Here we go. Newton gave one rule about the force, that the forces between interacting bodies are equal and opposite. Action equals reaction. That rule, it turns out, is not exactly true. In fact, the law...
Not untrue, but not exactly true. Yeah, it's always interesting how they use these weasel terms, right?
Yeah. Okay, so...
Well, it is interesting. No, I mean that. That's not a gotcha. I'm just saying it is interesting.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
They don't go, it's completely wrong. It's loaded.
No, they always use weasel words.
These weaselly... It turns out it's not exactly true, and that doesn't really help. As if we're
no, it doesn't, because you can, depending on how you say that, it can.
I agree. It could mean wrong. It's a little bit true. It's totally untrue. Yeah. It's nearly true. Yeah,
I agree, because I can say that Rumpus is not exactly honest. Doesn't mean he's totally dishonest.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, look, this is the best bit.
Before you do that, I've just got to do a shout out again. B-Ball for life. Flat Earthers only exist because of YouTube. Eric Dubé, Mark Sargent, and Math Powerland 3 of the most credible resources for scientific evidence. Thank you very much, people of life. Carry on, Tony.
This is the second sentence is the key bit. In fact, the law F equals ma is not exactly true. If it were a definition, we should have to say that it is always exactly true, but it is not. Now, if you're going to say that it's only not true sometimes, then that makes it not true. It's not. So when you said F equals ma is true, it isn't, because it isn't. Feynman says so. And here's another thing he says. In the same way, we cannot just call F equals ma.
Does he, Anthony? Right.
Yeah, but look, this is my point, though. When you're mathematically calculating for your observed phenomena that you believe you're observing, right, this epitomizes everything that's wrong with maths. In the same way, we cannot just call F equals ma a definition, deduce everything purely mathematically, and make mechanics a mathematical theory when when mechanics is a description of nature, in contrast to demonstrating the cause of an effect. He's literally epitomizing everything that we say is wrong about maths.
Yeah. Have you read the next bit there? It's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because you always say that I cherry pick. By establishing
That's why I read the next bit.
I'm not. Look,
by establishing cherry picking, and I'll give my verdicts in a minute. But okay, carry on. Just read the next bit. Yeah. Get to the end. Yeah.
By establishing suitable postulates, it is always possible to make a system of mathematics, just as Einstein maybe did, or anybody that applies mathematics. But we cannot make mathematics. But we cannot make
Toady's maths. Yeah.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I could go and measure some stuff, take a load of observations, and come up with my very, very simple mathematical model, which would be quite right for probably most things most normal people do. In fact, yeah. Do you see what I mean? But it would then fall down, right? Yeah. That's just approximations. But anyway, carry on.
But we cannot make a mathematics of the world because sooner
I agree. By the way, I agree with that.
Yeah. Because sooner or later, we will have to find out whether axioms are valid for the objects of nature. Thus, we immediately get involved with these complicated and dirty objects of nature, but with approximations of ever increasing in accuracy.
And that's the whole point, right? So I'll say 3 things. One is science never absolutely proves something. We just get more evidence.
That's not the point it's making.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
It is. By the way, it is.
Not. It isn't. The point it's making is that no matter how accurate your maths get, it isn't proving what's caused.
Hang on. That's the first tenet, right? That we never get complete answers, all right? That's what science is. Everyone who's ever studied the philosophy of science knows that you never get a final answer. Just go back to that paragraph, because I just want to read that next bit before you skip on. Then my second point is, as Feynman says, and he's a great guy, I can see it from this writing, fantastic writing, yeah? When we get involved with these dirty objects of nature, so when we really start... looking under the covers or taking away the veil of whatever it is that, Armstrong said, right? I can't remember what it is, removing the veil of secrecy that surrounds, nature. We get into some, tricky, complicated things, right? Which in our everyday life we don't normally see. And what we get is we get more and more approximations, which are more and more accurate. And I absolutely agree with that. That is the case. So I can quite easily believe that F equals ma works for most of the calculations I'm ever likely to do in the whole of my life on Earth.
Right, but just because you can...
it probably isn't as simple as that law. I can accept that.
But just because you can refine further and further and further the maths to match the claimed phenomena that you believe you're observing doesn't prove that the phenomena that you're observing actually exists just because you've got maths to match it.
Yeah, I would never prove it, Anthony. I agree. I completely agree with what you just said. It would never... ever prove it. You're absolutely completely right. I completely agree with you.
So why would you be calculating, though, to demonstrate this thing called gravity that nobody in science agrees with you in?
Because that's what we do in the real world. We go and calculate stuff and it works. Yeah? It's only an approximation. It doesn't prove anything.
No, in the real world, you can calculate for stuff, and if it happens to work out, then great, it calculates out. But in science, you're trying to prove the cause of an effect. You're not trying to calculate to match the phenomena. You want to prove what's causing it. That's the difference. That's the bit.
No, according to Feynman here, we're trying to get approximations of ever-increasing accuracy, I think he's just said, which you've just read out to me.
No. You've misunderstood his context. Look at what he says. In the same way, we cannot just call F equals ma a definition, deduce everything purely mathematically, and make mechanics a mathematical theory when mechanics is a description of nature. It's not a cause. It's a description.
So what I really, really think here, right, when we look at complicated interactions, if you notice, when people are trying to prove things, and we even did it in the submarine example, right, we try and simplify things down to the most simple case, right? Because in the real world, things are incredibly complicated, aren't they? Like, look at the Coriolis and the bullet. There's wind acting. What's the wind on the day? What's the magnetic field of this? What's this? What's the other?
Listen,
Do you see what I mean?
listen. Coriolis doesn't apply to Earth unless the Earth's
Just picking an
turning.
example. I'm just picking an example, right? We could pick spin-up speeds of electric motors. All right, there's another one. Okay, something I've got a lot of skills in. Yep, spin-up speeds of electric motors. Yep, there's 27 different causes and effects going on there. Yep, some very, very complicated, and probably the magnetic field of the Earth, wherever that experiment is being done, is probably one of them as well, right? So in science, you cannot always look at all of those things. So you try and simplify, yeah. And what Feynman is pointing out here is, you can say it's a simple law that F equals ma, and it mostly works. And for all the calculations we're likely to do, where it doesn't get down to very, very finite degrees, it works, which is why Newton held for 300 years, because Newton worked, yeah, and still does work for most things we want to do. The minute you get into a certain set of scenarios, though, it's not going to work for you, right? We know that. The orbits of GPS satellites, right? Yeah, you get about 7 seconds delay time, which completely
what's an orbit?
Bit of the Earth.
What's an orbit?
What's an orbit?
Yeah.
That's where something is falling constantly to the gravity well, but just missing it and going around the Earth.
And can you demonstrate this?
Point is, I work with GPS satellites. It's something I've got some knowledge about. I'm told, by the people who work with it, there's about, I can't remember, I think it's about 7 seconds on the ones that we work on, where you get a delay factor, in the signal. And apparently they have to use some very complicated Einsteinian equations, right, to work out where the places actually are. And when they first put the satellites up, they were out by 20, 30 meters, right? So they refined it all, and they found out that Newton didn't quite work in that scenario. It's a well-known scenario where it doesn't quite work, and something I've got direct experience of. You know me, I like my direct experience.
So hang on.
I've
So
got to go. Why don't you invite Bob in? Because then you can have a chat to Anthony, and I can just listen then.
I wouldn't piss on Bob if he was on fire. Listen, so this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing now when you say that you've worked with satellites.
Next. That's the word I'm looking for. You've nixed Bob, then, have you? I thought he was eager to come in.
One of the mistakes that Toady makes is thinking about science is to confuse it with technology. As a result, science or satellites often receives undue credit for Toady thinking that he's worked with them and therefore that they are proving orbits, or undue blame for everything else. In fact, science
doesn't say they proved orbits, did I? To be fair.
Yeah. You think that satellites are in orbit around a sphere, do you not?
I absolutely do.
Right, and
I've seen them, I've tracked them, I've got signals from them, I've seen mountains that have blocked the signals from them at angles.
Toady, you qualified it by saying that you've worked with them, right? That is what you said.
Of course.
Yeah, scientists are in the business of generating knowledge, whereas engineers are in the business of generating technology. People doing science often use sophisticated
technology. You've seen the
technology.
pictures of me working with the satellite technology, haven't you? You have seen that one on Jose's, yeah. This isn't a claim.
That's not science, though. That's not science. Just because you've worked with what you believe is orbiting doesn't prove that thing that you worked on is actually going around the Earth in an orbit.
So the calculations are reasonably conclusive, and plus the fact that they tend to get blocked by mountains means that there's something up there moving around, certainly.
But
you're right. It could be something else, maybe. Very unlikely. I've got a lot of evidence that shows it is.
Hang on.
And I calculate the angle of the mountains that block them, but.
But when you just said then that the calculations seem to support reality or whatever it was that you just said, Feynman says that when mechanics is just a description of nature, you're calculating shit that you believe exists based on what you're told, but it isn't proving the point that you believe is there just because it matches your phenomena.
I guess the problem I have with you on this, Anthony, is
so it is personal.
No, not personally. I guess the difficulty I have. Sorry, problem sounds bad, doesn't it? So I'll use a softer word. I'll say difficulty. The challenge I have. Let's use challenge. Challenge is a good word. The challenge I have is that I think that you probably don't work practically with many things, and so you're basing other people's claims as not being very strong, right? So I think you'd probably back up your own claims. I was talking to Ranty earlier about pictures that he'd taken. I think you'd done some photos at one point with him as well, right? And I think, you would very much back those up. I'm quite practical, and I do work with quite a lot of different bits of technology in the 25 odd years that I've had a working life. And so on those things, I feel quite strongly about them, because I've done quite a lot of calculations, I've not just sat down and done things. So I think if you had a little bit more practical experience Do you see what I mean? Of some of these technologies, I agree they are technologies. They're not science. I'm not saying I'm doing science with satellites. I'm doing tech. Definitely, I'm doing tech. Right? It's my job title. I'm definitely doing tech with them. But it does point to there absolutely being satellites. Yeah, I'm very convinced of satellites. It's something I'm strongly convinced about. I just think if you had a little bit more practical experience, it would open your eyes to a new world where you might consider things a bit differently.
So one of the things that came up in the Dimmock thing is one of the points that was challenged about whether or not stuff is being like promoted partisan political. Listen to this. A superficial treatment of subject matter typified by portraying factual or philosophical premises as being self-evident or trite, with insufficient explanation or justification, and without any indication that they might be subject of legitimate controversy. Satellites would fall into that, because you claim that because satellites do stuff, therefore they must be in orbit. You're kind of supporting that assertion.
No, so let's go slowly. Hang on, let's look at your definition slowly, because this is how you like to do it. A superficial treatment. Yeah. I mean, I've just made a claim. I've not put the evidence in front of you.
No, let's just quantify that. You might as well just go satellites, because that's basically what you're saying. Satellites.
Well, I've got some things in my experience that back it up. I've got a little bit of evidence I could show you immediately, right? As I say, I've got all that film that I took when I was in Cannes tracking satellites, which is, I wasn't there faking it. I didn't know about the flat Earth. No one sent me there to try and take pictures of me tracking satellites with a load of gear that I had. You can see those pictures. So certainly I was there doing something. Yeah, and you have to take it on faith that it was to do with satellites. But anyway, the point is I was doing something. I'm not making this up retrospectively. Philosophical premises being self-evident or trite with insufficient explanation or justification. Now, I think there are good explanations and justifications of satellites, and without any indication they may be the subject of legitimate controversy. Are satellites a subject of legitimate controversy?
Yeah, they don't exist. We've been saying it for weeks, years in this discussion.
What is the definition? Hang on. What is the definition? What is your definition? And I'm sure you've looked it up because this is part of your paper, isn't it? I'm assuming part of your submission. Yeah. What is subject of legitimate controversy? How many people need to be involved for it to be a legitimate controversy?
Well, the whole of the flat Earth movement would be enough to quantify.
A couple of hundred people is enough? I don't think so. No. Look the definition up. Look the definition up.
But when you type in satellites,
well, rather than typing in satellites, seeing a load of pictures of people rendering what satellites
they're not pictures. They're not pictures.
That's what I mean. They're pictures made up, right? Most of these look made up to me. They don't look like real pictures of satellites. I don't think any of the satellites.
But you're trying to tell us that they're falling around the curvature of the Earth, and that's why you're getting a signal.
That one looks quite real that your thing's on at the moment.
That?
No, the one that that pointer. Oh, maybe it's a picture on a pointer. The one down. The one bottom middle.
Bottom middle.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, sorry, it looked like there was a point. Yeah, look. Oh, it's my pointer. Sorry.
Oh, dear. Is it that time of night? Is it that time of night?
It is that time of night, exactly.
Tony, just go to bed. Come on. You're obviously very tired. You see things that aren't real.
Well, before you go, we do have a super chat again for Toady from JQ again. So I'm going to read this out. Toady, can water exert massive lateral pressure or not? Question mark. If not, build an above-ground pool from the rubber of birthday balloons.
I think he misses the point that, of course, there's lateral pressure there, but we're talking about the pressure that's in the middle of the body of the water, which is due to the acceleration down. I've seen people where they've got a swimming pool and then they hit it with an axe on YouTube and it all bursts and, of course, the water all floods out. You've got a metre of water there. Of course, there is lateral pressure. No one's saying there isn't lateral pressure. What we're saying is there is not the same lateral pressure as there is downward pressure of two atmospheres. Okay, so no one's saying there isn't lateral pressure. Lateral pressure exists, of course, it's a thing. And that was never the debate, and obviously maybe someone didn't get that. Right, I will bid you good night. Nice chatting to you, and hope you have a good rest of the week, and I'm sure we'll find another controversial topic to discuss.
Laters.
Bye.
See ya. Tony, we did have somebody ask for a citation to be popped up from B-Ball for Life. Please tell Anthony to put up a citation about the shape of the Earth, if you know what that's about.
Is it a citation that I've used, or is it one in general?
It's just the way it's put it. Please tell Anthony to pull up a citation about the shape of the Earth.
A citation. Let's see. What shape is the Earth? Let's see if we can find a citation from an EDU citation. Earth is not round, from Scientific American. Hey, I wonder if this is George Musa giving us a little nugget again. Let's have a look.
It's going to be
that's high.
oblate spheroid.
As countless photos from space exist that Earth is round, the blue marble astronauts have effectively dubbed it. Appearances, however, can be deceiving. It is not. Oh, it's not perfectly round. Notice that he says round, not spherical. But anyway, not to say that Earth is flat. Oh my God! Why would they even put that?
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Actually, I have to say.
Yeah, oblate spheroid. We can't go with NASA. Shape of the Earth. Let's have a look. Org. I'm just looking at one to see if I can find from EDU website and see if they'll do it. Because sometimes, Toady makes a good point. Often they don't use like terms or sentences that are absolutes. They'll use Weasley words to say, well, like instead of saying that the wheel is round, they'll say, well, it does appear to be round. No, it's either round or it's not. Is the wheel round? And they'll just not commit to an angle. They'll just leave it weaselly, like a politician. I can't find newscientist.com maybe.
No.
It's 2011. I don't know. Do you want to open it up and see if anyone wants to come in and chat?
Yeah, does anybody want to pop over and chat? If so, well, you might as well just call me on Skype and I'll add you to the call. So if you're on my my list, if I know you, give me a bell. I'll bring you straight in. In the meantime, Flat Earth British has joined the panel. Not the panel, the chat. So I'm going to show... Just going to drag that over so that people can see this. So this is Martin Leakdy's new channel. Currently he has 2,760 subscribers. Right, let me copy this. I'll copy that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste that in the chat in a moment. And here's his social blade rank. So here's his social blade over here. So, Flat Earth British. Let's hope we can get him a few more subs, get his channel back, you know? At least get it up to a level where he's going to be getting the 1,000 people or so that he used to have watching his stream. So, there's the link to his new channel. Click it, go over there, but don't forget to return and come back. Okay? Right, so get rid of them. You still looking for a .edu one there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can find anything with a .edu that says that it's a sphere. I would have expected, to be honest, the first 4 or 5 of them on page 1 to be. I mean, I'm sure they'll exist. I'm just testing it. Yeah, islamway.net. Let's just see what this says from an Islam perspective. Today we can look at the globe and we know that the Earth is somewhat like a ball, a sphere. The Quran makes certain statements that led Muslim scientists to understand long before their European counterparts that the Earth is spherical. Long before the European counterparts. When the Europe was in the Dark Ages thinking that the Earth was flat, Muslim students were using globes for studying the Earth in Islamic universities. Doesn't this reek of propaganda? Since it was not the purpose of the Quran to teach science, the Quran did not need to state explicitly that the Earth is spherical in shape, or more precisely, a geoid. But some of what the Quran says stimulates you to think that the world is a globe. Take, for example, the following verse. Have you not seen how God merges the night into the day and merges the day into the night? How do you infer from that? That is a non sequitur argument. That does not follow that sentence leads you to believe that the world is a globe. It works on both models, that completely. Another verse tells us that God coils the day and night around. He coils the night upon the day, and he coils the day upon the night. That doesn't make you think spherical either. The word coils in the verse above is a translation of the Arabic verb koawa, which is used in describing the action of coiling a turban around the head. Isn't that more consistent with a flat plane? To understand this statement fully, readers of the Quran have to think that the Earth is a sphere. The top of your head's flat though, isn't it? Alright, it's slightly dome-shaped, but you're wrapping a turban around it. That's more like a flat plane, to be honest, I would say. To fully appreciate the two above statements, ignore that. Day and night, the process of perpetual coiling. No less than a reminder to all the world, and you should certainly know the truth of it all after a while. November 18, Donut Earth. How we know the Earth is not flat. How we know the Earth is not flat. This is going to be ridiculous. Many feel a bit silly asking this question, but since the planet is round, one of the first things we all learnt at school, but I believe that we as educators should feel happy when our learners air their doubts and ask why questions about fundamental facts. We don't want the children to simply accept and memorise scientific concepts. We want them to doubt them. We want them to ask for proof. This is the way we nurture a scientific mind. After all, we might be totally wrong about the whole order of things in the universe. I couldn't agree with that anymore. That's absolutely right. Let's make this a bit bigger. The problem is, from where we live, we get a very distorted picture of the world. When we look around, all we see is flat ground, stationary Earth, and the sun, the planet circling around it. It took a long time, years of observations and lots of groundbreaking ideas to give us the modern view of the universe, and the spherical shape of the Earth was one of the first mysteries that humankind have cracked. Who was the first to know the Earth was round? The early cultures all seem to share the flat Earth belief. So was it Neil deGrasse Tyson? No, it was Brian Cox that said nobody ever believed that the Earth was flat, right? All the early cultures seem to share the flat Earth belief. We know the myths of the platter-shaped Earth floating in the ocean or being held by the elephant standing on the turtle. Chinese believed that Earth was flat and square and surrounded by heavens. Gradually, the flat Earth view gave way to spherical Earth. It's now impossible. It's impossible to tell who was first to point it out. Really? So these are saying it's not Eratosthenes, it could be somebody else. Pythagoras, famous Greek polymath, usually gets credit for the discovery of the spherical shape of the Earth, though it's likely that the idea was known for some time before him. Over 100 years before, Aristotle finally provided us with observational proof that the Earth has a spherical shape. You can read the translation of his original text here. That's going to be worth reading. I'll be reading that in a bit. One more century passed before someone measured how big the sphere was. Eratosthenes, circumference of the Earth using simple geometry. Obviously, the math works both ways, and I don't know how Eratosthenes knew which math to use. Eventually, Sir Isaac Newton figured out that Earth was not a perfect sphere, but a slightly squashed one. Really? I didn't know that came from him.
Well, I am going to have to round up in a minute, Tony, because I'm going to get an early night for a change. Yeah. Is there much more to go on that?
No, I just want to see what this this bit here is. No, it's alright, you can round it out if you want.
Yeah, sure, no worries. Right. So tomorrow evening we're going to have a ladies' night. So you might have seen Roxanne the Globalist Denier. She's in there right now, so she'll be on the show tomorrow. We've got Dolly coming in, hopefully Karen B and maybe a few others. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be not male voices this time. It's just going to be ladies' voices, which should be interesting. So that will be at 11 p.m. BST tomorrow. I'm going to keep back to my regular schedule tomorrow. 11 p.m. BST, that's London time. Right. Thanks, Tony, for stopping by. Is there anything you want to say? Because I believe that Fight the Flat Earth is live right now, going through your paper.
You can't even read. I don't know why you would be going right live on that paper. Anything that I want to say?
Yes, that was very interesting, that, Tony. Yeah.
Stop anybody that claims gravity to be a force, because everywhere says that it's not. Every citation currently in current science, you can just Google it, is gravity a force, and they're all there. No one is saying gravity is a force apart from the morons in this discussion. It doesn't even exist. They can't even define it. If they're calling it a force and acting like it's a force, but it's not a force, what the hell state is gravity? And if they think that it's a force and it's not a force, but they're calculating for it, it's utter garbage. It's everywhere. No one thinks that it's a force. Don't let them get away with it.
Okay. I'll just read out the people that have given a super chat tonight. So we've had JQ, B-Ball for Life, and Aaron Armstrong. Thank you all very much for supporting the show, supporting me. In the meantime, this has been Sleeping Warrior versus Toady. The Fight Night continues with the Flat Earth debate. And yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow evening. Have a good one.